given the location and everywhere, I'd have to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all who have made it a must to join us today live from the various locations that you're all from. And I trust you're doing great and keeping safe. So first of all, on behalf of the organization and as the founding president of this network, please allow me to welcome you all to this very first Leadership Summit organized by the Women in Finance and Investment Network, WIFIN for short, along with our educational partners, the Chartered Global Investment Analyst, CGIA, the Institute of Certified Chartered Economists, ICCE, our institutional partners, Westline Co., the FI Sons, the Economy 360, along with the support of our panelist organizations, of course. So this year, the Women in Finance and Investment Network Summit is themed at improving the individual and organizational performance through leadership in this very rapidly changing world. We've seen a lot in the past two years, I'd say. And through this very summit, WIFIN is aiming at inspiring and motivating the next generation of women leaders in the finance and investment management industry and many other related industries. I'm very sure that we've been joined by very curious, growth-minded, and change-driven women and men, of course, who are obviously looking at elevating their leadership. But my question to you is, why does leadership matter? And why this discussion is so critical? I would just say that, whether you're a business leader, a C-level executive, a middle management staff, an entrepreneur, a volunteer, or, well, someone who has just started his or her career, or maybe just someone who's trying to, find a place in the industry, you all have an influence. And every day you do impact people or those in your immediate environment through your influence in various ways and levels. And here it is also important that to highlight that leadership also matters. So when you invest in developing your leadership skills, you also give back to people around you, you strengthen relationships, you build trust in your team, you innovate towards a better future, and very importantly, you face challenges head on with a fresh perspective. And this way you don't only thrive, but you also, your surrounding, your businesses, and eventually your entire community thrive. So for us at Women in Finance and Investment Network, leadership is at our core. We are convinced that female leadership in particular is critical to business and organizations' vitality. The success of any organization depends largely on the character, on the devotion, leadership skills of its formal, informal staffs, as well as volunteers. So organization or communities desperately needs a new breed of ethical leadership, and female leadership is very much critical in building and developing the next generation of leaders. Now, in line with our vision of accelerating growth and raising of women leaders in the finance and investment management industry globally, and our commitment to empower women of this industry to successfully achieve their professional potential at each and every step of their career, we will be digging deeper into female leadership through this summit. Our leadership experts have joined us today, and they will help us in dissecting the need for female leadership, the challenges that we face, and the potential solutions or measures in achieving such leadership. So to everyone, welcome. We are really happy to have you all joined us. I will take this opportunity to present to you our moderator, who is currently offline, Gifty. Please, our audience would love to see you. Yes, so this is Gifty Botama Anand. Gifty will be our moderator for this session. She will take us through, introduce to us our panelists, take us through the discussions, the presentations and everything. So Gifty, thank you so much for accepting our request to be moderating this discussion, and you're welcome. Please, the floor is yours. Thank you to the audience for listening.
Thank you so much. A million thank you notes to you, Ms. Dikshita. I am more than delighted, to be the moderator, more like the chauffeur, to drive you all to safety today. As far as our leadership summit is concerned, and I'm really, really excited to be part of this conversation. I go by the name Gifty Guatemala, and I'm just like Dikshita rightly mentioned, the country representative of WIFIN from Ghana. And like you can see, I'm proudly representing Ghana in my African fabrics and representing Africa as a continent as well. And today, I would say once again, I'm very excited. Obviously, we cannot have this conversation if we did not know that there were people who have listening ears and are ready to listen to us. And so to our virtual audience that we are unable to see, we want to say a very big thank you for joining us from all across the regions of the world. We do not in any way take your participation lightly. But I must warn you, you're going to have a hell of a conversation all right today. And so sit tight. I'm just trying to give you a moment to adjust yourselves. I know that some of you are right there in your kitchen. Some of you are having breakfast. Some of you are having lunch. Some of you are having dinner. And so I'm giving you a moment or two to just adjust yourselves. Some of you probably are stuck in traffic. Some are still on computers working or trying to catch up with a deadline. And so you have a minute or two to adjust yourselves, please. Okay. Great. As our virtual audience can see, I'm not all by myself here just talking. I happen to be in the company of great female leaders carefully selected to reflect a fair representation of speakers from all across the regions of the world. We have speakers from Europe, we have speakers representing Asia, USA, and today we're going to have, one of the finest conversations ever as far as female leadership is concerned. I would quickly say that our speakers should give our audience a virtual wave. And so when I mention your name, you actually give a virtual wave to our audience, please. We have Manisha all the way from India. Manisha, can you give a virtual wave to our virtual audience? Okay, we have Stacy all the way from Sydney, Australia. You're welcome, Stacy. Great to have you here today. We have Karen C, all the way from Hong Kong. Great to have you here, Karen. That's here. Taja is actually from Finland. Taja, you're welcome. And we're happy to have you here. Amy McKay is from Nebraska, USA. Amy, say hello to your audience. Great. Fantastic. Can you all hear me? Can you all hear me, or you lost me at some point? Okay, great. Then we have, okay, last but not least on our panel, we have Senella all the way from Colombo, Sri Lanka. Senella.
She will be joining us. She'll be joining us in a while.
Okay, that's very okay. That's fine. Okay, so just like Aishi or Dikshita rightly said, we are here to have a conversation about women and the challenges that female leaders face. We are going to dive deeper into what it means to become a female leader, what it takes, the tools to equip you to become a female leader. And today, just because of time and the fact that we are all from different parts of the world, we are going to be very brief, and then we are going to do everything here very succinctly so that everybody can either wrap up your day or get your day going, basically. I'll quickly introduce the speaker for today, who is going to set the tone. She's going to set the tone for today's conversation. And once that tone is set, we can have a very beautiful conversation today. Our keynote speaker is actually a motivational speaker who is so sought after, a sought after motivational speaker, a trainer, a confidence coach. She's known for her authenticity, inspiration, and a fierce way of motivating the masses. She helps boost confidence, create lasting impact, and help individuals and business reach their highest and highest potentials. Manisha began her career as an analyst in one of the top investment banks in the world. Working with different set of professionals gave her an understanding of the importance of skill set, right kind of motivation, powerful trainings, mindset to building and emotional engineering that is needed for individuals to prosper in any field of work, not just in the finance and investment industry, but cutting across all various industries. It could be agriculture, it could be education, it could be academia, whatever it is. This led her in founding her own firm named the Dream Hunt India. She worked extensively for years, and her genuine passion for positive life changes in others through her professional work helped her firm massively, and India was awarded as Best Training Institute of Pune by WOW Publications. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll say gentlemen as well because I can see there are a few men joining us, and obviously we cannot have the conversation about diversity without having our men being a part of it. I introduce to you Manisha, all the way from India, to give us the keynote address. Manisha, your online virtual audience awaits. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Hope you all are doing absolutely fine. First of all, let me thank the entire team of WIFIN for inviting me and giving me this opportunity onto your platform to not to connect with one, two, but hundreds and thousands in the future onto this platform. And also, Gifty, first of all, I would like to thank you for giving this introduction to the masses out there. It really means a lot. So without wasting a single second, I would like to start with the topic which is very near to my heart and which had actually started, my journey had actually started because of this. So let me tell you that me coming from a very conservative or, a kind of a society which is still thinking that the potential of women to a certain extent is not there. So the recognition is not there at all. So me coming from such a society, I've actually challenged myself, and every day is a challenge for me, but I make sure, of course, that we have to be an inspiration to the people who are around us, who are knowing us, and who are actually scaling our success every day in and out. So first of all, coming from a banking background, I had that one thing in my mind that, I want to get into a bank. Now, irrespective of which bank, whether a retail bank or an investment bank, that was not clear in my mind. But yes, I want to get into a bank. And that is where I started my education by fighting for it, first of all, the basic right that is of education. That still, the sad part is that still there are certain sections of the society where females are not being given the basic right of education. So to all the people who are listening to us, to make this conversation more of a relatable, I would like to share a few of my experiences so that you can, relate and understand as to why this topic has been taken out, and moreover, how in the coming future, in our respective fields, we can definitely make a contribution to the life of the people out there. So after fighting for my right and completing my graduation, after pursuing my 3 degrees, I made a point that I want to work into a bank. So I was working into a topmost investment bank, that is Deutsche Bank. And after 2 years of corporate experience, I realized, as a financial analyst, I realized over there that being a fresher, there are certain, parts of the corporate diplomacy out there wherein you have not been encouraged to a certain section where you are allowed or you have that privilege to really grow. So moreover, I just don't blame the complete opposite part of section of the society, but I would like to rather say that, to all the ladies out there, we should rather prove ourselves, our skill sets, and moreover start working on our skill sets so that we have been recognized. People realize that, there is something really different in you, and because of that you have been selected, or because of that you deserve a particular position out there. So I think irrespective of what the corporate culture is out there, you should have that thing in mindset that there is certain skills and that hunger for me to learn, to grow. That is where I think we need to capitalize on more about blaming on to the opposite sex out there. And let me tell you that there are certain men also who are definitely encouraging, promoting women leadership to a great extent, but it is we, again, I'm repeating, it is we should, make the most of these opportunities, moreover, grab these opportunities whenever they're coming in front of us. Because initially, when certain things were happening with me, I realized that, what, just because I'm into corporate, there are certain things which I am not comfortable with. Why am I not being given a position of next post? Why again and again there is a certain grade that I've been given which is lower than the male counterparts out there. Then after 2 years journey, I realized that, what, I am doing much better as a teacher and as a trainer. And that is where I and my partner, Sridhar, we decided that, what, we had met in Deutsche itself. And we decided that let's make the most of the things that we are pretty good at. And that is where we opened up our own training institute named as Dream Hunt India. And fortunately, we are out there not only nationally, but internationally as well. So prime focus, the precise focus of Dream Hunt India is that how we can make sure that a particular female at the foundational stage starts becoming more and more independent when it comes to her financial life, her leadership life, as to what skill set she currently has. Is she emotionally, physically, and mentally independent? So these are the certain sections where we should make sure that females are pushed towards it, because they already have those ingredients. It is not that they don't have, they already have it. It's just that we have to make sure that they realize it and they make the most of the potential that is there in them. And then slowly and gradually coming to the part as an entrepreneur, I realized that then was the new journey of my life where judgment was coming to the picture. There were certain sections where I was being judged on the basis of my age, or on the basis of, oh, she's a female, I don't think she's going to get married within a few years. And you never know, after a few years she would give up her job. It's better to choose someone who is into the male counterparts out there. So I could feel that to a certain extent. I definitely felt that, but believe me, that is one thing that kept me going. And today also, which actually helps me in moving forward in my entrepreneurship journey, is that I always focus on my skill sets. I make sure that whatever skills are required for me to achieve a target is something that I work on. So if you really want to achieve something, start improving your skill sets, start working on your mindset as to there is nothing as such called as biasness into the 21st century right now. Because be it sports, be it corporate, be it running your own household stuff out there, everywhere females are rocking and we are leaders out there. So it is just that a few skill sets, we are just one or couple of skill sets away from achieving our targets. And that is where I think we should really work on ourselves. And that is very much possible, because if I can do it, even you can do it. It's everybody's cup of tea. And believe me, let's join hands together and work towards this. And to everyone out there, we have felt to a certain extent that a female is not comfortable with a female. Yes, even today, at times I do feel that, but I have started getting that gist and getting that positivity when I, changed my perspective towards how I can rather win that woman rather than being an enemy of that woman. So I started conversating and started communicating with a particular person whom I feel that is not comfortable with my growth or the way I am approaching people. So I think in this way also we can definitely change the perspective of society and not just keep blaming as and when things are not, if things are not turning in our favor. So that was my take on this, and I hope you have got the gist about this keynote speech. And I really thank Dikshita. I salute you for the entire platform that you have designed of WIMFIN, because this is a program which should be taken on a very regular basis with the best of the business leaders out there, not only females, but yes, males as well, because as I said, there are certain sections where men are supporting women leadership to a great extent, and they are eagerly waiting that when females are actually grab the seats out there and the positions over there, so that we get get the burden out there down. So that is where I think it's a plus point for us, and we should give opportunities, equal opportunities to everyone, and that is where diversity takes place. So once again, thank you so much, Vifin, Diksha, the entire team, and Gifty for the introduction once again. And very, very glad to have Tarja, Karen, Stacey, and Amy onto this platform with you. Thank you, everyone, and everyone out there. Namaste from India, Manisha Bhatis from Dream Hunt, India. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Manisha. Namaste, namaste, namaste. I want to say a very big thank you. Just like Manisha said, she says that if she could do it, then we can also do it. To all emerging female leaders from all across the regions of the world, this is a message from Manisha to you. If she could do it, then let's take our hands. Let's join hands together. Collaboratively, we can push women to the places of decision making and change the world for good. Once again, I want to say thank you to our keynote speaker, Manisha. Thank you for joining us all the way from India. We do not in any way take your presence here lightly. I want to say thank you. Moving on, I'm still your moderator for the day. If you're just joining us, I would mention that my name is Gifty Boatma Anand, representing Ghana proudly right here in the Women in Finance and Investment Leadership Summit, organized by the Women in Finance and Investment Network. And you are still in this conversation. Just after the keynote, we are about to dive into deeper conversations. Manisha wished us well with our presentations, and so I believe that for every one of the speakers, they're going to give us their best, and we are here to learn as well. Without taking my time, I would quickly do the first introduction for the first speaker. Truth is, too often in times of turbulence, the temptation is to batten down the hatches, okay, and seek safety by caution and prudence. But just as it takes an anchor to keep the ship in times of turbulence, in times of storm, so does it take a rigorously innovative leader to actually direct and navigate the affairs of an organization in times of corporate turbulence. Our first presentation actually excites me so much simply because our conversation focuses on leading through turbulence. I take it again, leading through turbulence. And talking about turbulence, in recent times, we all, none of us being taken out, we have had a fair share and a taste of it. Because just before we could wrap up the year 2019, COVID-19 swept in uninvited, and through political leaders, organizational leaders, and what have you, took all of us off our game. And actually, as it stands now, we are all experiencing the devastating effects of the pandemic. I would say that it came in as a testing tool to either authenticate the leaders we have or to expose the leadership lapses in our time. And while some leaders may have failed irrecoverably, I'll say irrecoverably because they cannot prove to us again that they are worthy of leadership, but others have been able to stand tall amongst the pandemic. Others have been able to prove themselves as remarkable leaders. And today, we have such women with us today. So many of them here. I would say that we are actually honored to have Stacey walk us through this all-important conversation. But just before she starts her presentation, I will give a vocal depiction of what her profile looks like, a very short one like that. Stacey is a high-performance leading and coaching expert with over 30 years of experience. She has helped over thousands and thousands of people and developed their leadership competence, confidence, and their credibility. She is the author of 3 #1 Amazon best-selling books on leadership, including the newly released Show Up 21. Stacey has 4 international Stevie Awards, including Coach of the Year 2019, has been nominated for the Telstra Business and Women's Awards 9 times. Impressive. And in 2018, she was named in the Global LinkedIn Top Voices. Stacey is actually obsessed with leading possibilities. Ladies and gentlemen, our virtual audience, I introduce to you Stacey Ashley. Stacey, your virtual audience.
Thank you so much, Gifty, for that really lovely introduction. I'm very excited to be joining you here in what is my evening. So whatever time of day it is for you, I really welcome the opportunity to share this time with you. I wanted to start by sharing a story with you. Quite a few years ago, I was on a Qantas flight and I was flying home from holidays from Los Angeles to Sydney, Australia. Now, that's a pretty long flight. And we were well into that flight. The passenger cabin was dark. Most of the passengers were asleep, including me. It was very quiet. And then suddenly the lights came on. It was probably about 2 a.m. in the morning. The captain came over the intercom and said, "I'm going to change the flight plan. We've got a small indicator light up here on the flight deck that's flashing, and we might have a problem. So we're going to divert the plane and we're going to land early in Fiji." And everyone was, sort of okay with that. It was a bit of a surprise, but it was said in such a controlled, calm way that we just went with it. So shortly afterwards, all these very sleepy passengers are in a plane that really does a mid-air right turn and starts to descend very quickly. There's another announcement suggesting that the flight crew now need to prepare the plane for an emergency landing. And that was the first time that we had realized actually there could be quite a serious problem here. And so not long after that, dawn was breaking, we could see, the sun coming up, and we're still descending very, very quickly. The flight crew have prepared the cabin for landing, seatbelts are on, tray tables are away, seat backs are in the upright position, all of the luggage has been put away. And then the flight crew come over the intercom and they explain the emergency landing positions, the brace positions, and now the passengers are getting nervous. We didn't really realize this was such an emergency. So we understand our brace positions. We suddenly realize that we're also dumping fuel as we get closer to Fiji. We can now see the lights in the distance. We know now this is an emergency, and yet the flight crew are calm. They've organized the cabin. We all know what we need to do. Now, the plane landed safely, clearly, because I'm still here. We landed on the runway and we get to the end of the runway and there are emergency vehicles on both sides of the runway. When the plane stops, fire retardant foam is sprayed all over that aeroplane. We can smell the jet fuel in the cabin. Very quickly, we disembark the plane and we get into the terminal. But overall, it was very organised and very calm. And the passengers did what they were told and we got off the plane very quickly. Now, the plane was repaired the same day, and that night we all got back onto the aeroplane to fly from Fiji to Sydney. The captain, before we took off, explained that it was a very good thing that he had taken notice of that little indicator light and landed the plane early, because in fact there was a 4-inch crack in the fuel line. It was an emergency. What can we learn about this? What has this got to do with leadership? We live in a world that embodies VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. Before we even had a global pandemic, we had, accelerating technology, globalization, multiple generations in the workforce, political and economic and social demands placed on our organizations and our businesses. And as leaders, we need to be able to respond to all of those things, to be able to step up and accept those challenges and lead through them. Now, when you put a global pandemic over the top of all of that, well, we've got this massive acceleration of all of those things and change as well, unprecedented change, exponential change. The world is craving leadership right now, and that means that more of us need to step up and lead. And that means the imperative of bringing as many different folks of different backgrounds and different experiences into leadership is important. And of course, that means we need to bring more women into our leadership ranks as quickly as we can. And we need to make sure they're equipped. And so what I want to share with you today are the 3 keys that great leaders use to lead through emergency, crisis, turbulence, and significant change. There are 3 things that leaders do really well, great leaders do really well during those kinds of circumstances, the circumstances that we find ourselves with right now. And those 3 things are these. The first one is that they focus specifically and only on the important, on the things that make a difference. The second thing is communication. And it's no great surprise, but it is imperative. And the third thing that they focus on is building capability. So let me go through each of those with you. The first one, focusing specifically and only on the important. That is about deciding how you as a leader invest yourself. You are a limited resource. You have only a certain amount of time, attention span, energy, effort, focus, and you need to use that really wisely. You need to invest it really wisely on the things where you can add value, where you can make a difference, where you have impact. And so what I find when I'm working with leaders is there's a lot to do. There's more to do than you can ever get through. And they're super busy. Often they're overwhelmed with the number of different things that they could be doing. But the secret is about the choices you make to focus yourself on the things that will make a difference. And that means for smart leaders, they actually have 2 lists. They have a to-do list, the things that they will do, and they have a to-don't list, the things they won't do. So let's go back to the airplane. What is the specific things that the pilots are going to do? They're going to land the plane safely. They're not going to do anything else. Their focus is completely on that because that's where they make the most difference. For the flight crew, their focus was specifically on getting the plane prepared to land in an emergency landing situation. It wasn't for them to be handing out drinks and snacks, right? They have to focus on the things that make a difference. Preparing the cabin for landing, preparing the passengers for landing. And the same goes for you. You need to focus on the things that make a difference and invest yourselves in those things. Don't do the other things, the things that might be urgent, the things that people say, oh, can you just help me with this? Focus on where you make a difference, where you make a unique difference. And so to help you with this, I just want to share with you a really quick model. I'm just going to pop my iPad up so you can have a look at it. And let me get that up for you. I've got so many screens open. Here we go. And so I would love to hear if you can actually see my iPad. It's got a little cross there. And what I want to share with you is the time management matrix. And the time management matrix was developed by Stephen Covey, and it really helps us to define, how do I focus, on the right things? How do I know what it is that I should be focusing on? And so we have 2 dimensions. The first dimension is about urgency, the things that we get asked to do because, somebody says they're important, but actually they're urgent. And so urgency runs across the horizontal, and we have things that are highly urgent, and I'm hoping you can see this, and we have things that have a low level of urgency. The second dimension, and this is the one that makes the difference, because a lot of people choose what to do based on urgency. What we really want to look at is impact. And so when you're a leader, you want to focus on the things that have a high level of impact. So on this vertical dimension, we've got a high level of impact at the top and a low level of impact at the bottom. And this gives us 4 quadrants of activity. I'm just going to pick a different color here. So we've got quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3, quadrant 4, making up those different dimensions of urgency and impact. So really, in summary, what we want to do is we want to be above the horizontal line, because those are the high impact activities, quadrant 1 and quadrant 2. And most of the time, we want to be operating not in urgency, but in a planful way, because we know that we're going to make the biggest difference focusing on the things that we can plan and complete that make an impact. And so here's the challenge. I said earlier that great leaders choose specifically and only to focus on the important during turbulence, or in fact at any time, but particularly during turbulence and emergency. And this means they have to make choices about what they do and what they don't do. Now, the thing is, for a lot of people, they get caught down here in quadrant 3, very urgent, not very important. All those little things that you can tick off your to-do list, but at the end of the day, they don't make a big difference. In fact, if that's all you did all week, you really haven't moved the dial. Strategically, you've made no difference. And so the challenge is to get away from quadrant 3, which is urgent and not really very important, and up here into quadrant 2. Quadrant 2 is very important, not yet urgent. So we plan and complete the things that are important. And for most people, to give you a sense of it, for people who are high performing, for leaders who are high performing, they spend 65 to 80% of their time doing this kind of work. About 15% over here in quadrant 1, where it's important and urgent, because there are some things that we know will come up and they'll be very impactful and we need to deal with them. But my challenge to you is to think about, where do you do your work? Where does it live? And what changes might you need to make so that you are focused on the important rather than the urgent? So I hope that's making sense to you. Now, I can see a comment there that says, can we make it bigger? Yes, if you put speaker view on, then you will get a bigger screen. And you can click in the top right-hand corner there of your Zoom window, and then you'll be able to see that. Now, the second element of great leadership during emergency is communication. Now, we know communication is vital to work with the people around us, to encourage collaboration, to create connection, rapport. And as a side note, the research by Glint in, I think, late 2020, actually, so it's probably progressed a little bit since then, indicates that the connection level between leaders and teams has actually diminished quite significantly since 2019. In fact, more than 35% of people feel less connected with their leaders than they did then. So we have a really big responsibility to grow that connection, and communication is one of the keys to doing that. And so in times of emergency and turbulence and change and transitioning from how we were to how we're going to be, it's really important to let people know what's going on and what they will notice and how they can be involved, so that they get the messaging regularly and that they understand, their part in it. And if I go back to my plane story, communication was very clear. First, we had the captain of the plane telling us that there was a change in the plan. Then we had the flight crew telling us what we needed to do to participate in preparing the cabin for landing and all of the instructions that we needed. So there was this continuous communication, very calm, very clear. The messages were repeated, they were consistent, they were delivered in lots of different ways. So it was over the intercom, it was individual conversations as the flight crew moves through the aircraft. It was the information that's on the flight information card that goes in the back of the seat pocket, all sorts of different ways that the communication was shared with us, because people receive information in different ways. And so we need to support that. And as leaders, we need to be conscious of that. So I want to share with you just a really quick way of being able to craft a message. Sometimes it's like, where do I start to actually build this communication so I know what to say, so I have a consistent message that is clear? So I wanted to share with you today one way of crafting a message, particularly in times of change, that that'll just help you to develop, you know, a way forward in terms of the messaging. So I'm going to pop my iPad up again and just share this with you. It's a really simple framework. If I can just get the share happening, there we go. And so I'm just going to draw 4 circles here, hopefully. Yeah, there we go, there's one. So just popping up these circles first, and then I'm going to explain the components of it. There are 4 parts to this messaging framework, and you can use it in lots of different situations, but we'll call it, let me just make this a little bit smarter. There we go. It's a little bit more balanced. Okay. So there are 4 components to this messaging framework, and you can use it in lots of circumstances, but I find it works really well in change and transformation and kind of crisis-y type situations, because it really gives clarity very, very quickly. So it's called the 4 Ps. And the first P is really to describe the intent or the purpose. And so purpose is basically about, why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we making the change? Why are we doing the project? Why are we undertaking this activity? And so the captain came over the intercom and he said, we have an indicator light on the dashboard in the flight deck, excuse me, tripping over my words. We've got an indicator light that suggests there might be a problem. Therefore, we're changing our plans to land, and so that we can land safely and check it out. That's the purpose. That's why we're doing it. And so in any messaging, when we're talking about something that we're undertaking, we want to tell people why. And so that's what the purpose is all about, is the why. The second part of the framework that we want to share with people is the picture. And the picture is about the picture of where we're going, what the destination is. And so that's the question we answer. Where are we going? And what will it be like when we get there? Well, where we're going on the plane was, we're going to Fiji to land at the airport. And this is what's going to happen when you get there. Right? So we know what to expect, what to anticipate. The third component, really easily, pathway. And the pathway basically is the plan. What are we doing? And so that's the steps, not necessarily all of the detail, but the major pieces to get us from where we are, which is, you know, the now, to where we're going to be. Right? So it's really, really simple. And then the final part, of course, is we want people to be involved. We need them to be able to contribute. And so we need to let them know what is their part. And we answer the question, how? How can they help? How can they participate? I really hope that this is making sense and coming through clearly. And so if you can answer those questions and address the 4 Ps in a communication, you give people a really succinct, clear message about why we're doing something, where are we going, what's going to happen on the way, and how can I be involved? So it's short and sharp. And then you can deliver that message in all of the different ways that you need to optimize the chances of people actually getting that message and being, understanding what's going on and understanding how they can be involved. And communication is really going to be the glue that keeps people together and collaborating and connecting throughout the journey that you're on together, whether it's an emergency or whether it's just a long-term transition. Okay, so then the third thing that I wanted to share with you, the third component of great leadership during times of turbulence and emergency, is to build capability. And again, it seems like common sense, but what I've noticed is that over the last 18 months to 2 years, there's been less focus on building capability. Now, in my plane analogy story, and it is a true story, by the way, the capability of the flight crew, of the cabin crew had been built. They had been trained, they practiced, they knew exactly what they needed to do. So they already had capability. The capability that needed to be developed in that situation was the capability of the passengers. So the passengers knew what to do to brace for the emergency landing and then to quickly exit the plane. And so the focus was on building that capability, educating the passengers on what they needed to do, when they needed to do it, and how. Now, we need to do exactly the same thing in our own processes of change, transformation, emergency leadership. If you want people to be able to contribute to the situation, they need to believe that they can. They need to have a level of confidence that they have something to offer. And so capability is one of the keys to building that confidence. Of course, we actually need the capability as well. So what are the capabilities we need now to actually get us through the current situation? What are the capabilities that we are going to need as we move forward to leverage the opportunities that will come out of the change, out of the pandemic, out of the changing world of work, all of those things. So we need to cater for capability now and in the future. And in doing that and building capability in ourselves, because as leaders, we've got to first lead ourselves. So we really must always be focusing on how do we upskill, how do we elevate our practice of leadership so that we can continue to contribute, but also how do we build capability in those around us, whether that is peers, team members, other colleagues, even our boss, help them to elevate so that they are more capable and have the confidence to participate and contribute in finding the way forward. So to quickly recap, the 3 keys to effectively leading through times of turbulence, change, transformation, and emergency are firstly to focus specifically and only on the important, making really clear choices about how to invest yourselves in the things that make a difference. So really focusing on your to-do list and saying no to those things that belong on the to-don't list. The second thing is to really ensure that there's consistent, clear messaging that's delivered in lots of different ways. And I've given you a framework for that. And then the third thing is to make sure that you build capability for yourself and the people around you so that you can cope and contribute with what's going on now and have the confidence to, and going forward. So I'd like to leave you with a question. And my question is, when you think about those 3 different things, focusing specifically and only on the important, communication and building capability, which one of those needs the most attention from you right now? I have a little something that I wanted to share with you. Gifty mentioned that I had written, or that my latest book was Show Up 21. I wrote it earlier this year in response to the pandemic to really help leaders have some more equipment in their toolkit to support them to lead and to keep leading what I believe is going to be a marathon of change. So I'd love to share that with you now, and you will need your phone because I've got a I've got a QR code for you to snap and grab a copy of this right now. So I'm hoping there's a whole stack of resources, but let me just pop to this slide. So you'll get a copy of my bookshop 21 with a variety of supporting resources if you would like it. So you can just copy that, scan that QR code right now, and you will access a copy of the ebook. Just follow the instructions, pop your email address in, and we will send it to you. So I hope that that's useful. It's got some great tips, some of the ideas that I've shared with you today, and some more to help you to continue to be a leader of change and to really look after yourself so that you can lead sustainably in the long term. I hope that you've got something valuable out of that session. And again, I would leave you with the question, which of those 3 elements do you need to focus on right now? Thank you for your time. Back to you, Gifty.
Thank you so much, Stacey, Ashley. That was so much to glean in just one conversation. So much to glean. So much. I would hand over to Dikshita at this point. And
yeah, I would just like to tell this to our audience. In case you have any questions for Stacey, please just drop them in our Q&A. We would like to take it before we do our actual Q&A session. Given the time zone that Stacey is, she's based in Sydney, Australia, and it's really late at her place. So just let's be kind to her. Any questions, just jot them in the Q&A chat box, and we will take it for Stacey.
okay.
Yeah, but Stacey, well done. Thank you.
There are a few questions.
I think for ourselves as well, as an organization, a lot of the insights is going to be helpful. A lot of them. Yeah, it was. I myself took a pen on a paper and I started drawing. So thank you very much, Stacey. Thank you. Okay. There's Janet saying that she was unable to scan it. So if we could
let me pop it up again.
The code again, yeah.
There we go. How's that?
Oh.
Please let us know if it's good, and we can. Okay. I think we are good to go.
Okay, I can send you the URL if you would, Dikshita, if you would like to share it in the chat a little later.
Sure. I've scanned it, so I do have it, but we can go forward with that. Gifty, we'll take this time
Dikshita,
to.
I think we have one person. Someone is asking a few questions though.
Okay.
All right. The Q&A session. You realize that we have Bindi. I don't know if it's Bindi. Says that when I project manage, I always aim to focus on what, why, how, when, who.
Okay. So she was commenting.
She was just, commenting, and then there was one other. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah.
Anonymous attendee.
Okay. Do you want to take it, or should I take it?
Just take it.
All right. So we have an anonymous attendee here, and she is a student. She started a business 2 years ago, and she is asking, so she self-taught herself and all of that, and she hasn't made profits since she started, and she believes that it's because she was unable to manage the money efficiently. So she's asking, how does she, or what should she do to manage money properly, and how can she make improvements in making money? All right, Stacey, anything on that?
I have to say that's probably not my area of expertise, but I think it comes down to some of the basics, which is if you want to make money, you've got to have more coming in than is going out. And I would get the right kind of advice, I think. in summary, is really what you
Sure.
need help with, and get some education around running your business. Those would be the two things that I would suggest.
We do have a question here from Linda. She's asking, how can we deal with time wasters?
Yeah, it's I think, again, it comes back to clarity on what you're going to focus on and what you're not going to focus on. And so if someone came to me and they were just kind of talking to me and didn't really have any, I would specifically ask them, what do you need from me right now? So let's get to the heart of the conversation right now. And if it's not clear, then I would say, when you're clear, come back to me. And I'd love to help, but at the moment I'm going to focus on this because this is the important thing I've got right now. And so I think it's just knowing where you want to put your attention and making really conscious choices between potential time wasters, your own and other people's, and those important things.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Also, thank you so much, Stacey. To our audience, just very quickly, I'd like to introduce to you our panelist who has just joined us. She's Senela Jayasuriya. She was held in a meeting earlier, so she couldn't join us as we started. But thank you, Senela, for joining us right now. We're welcome. We are pleased to have you. Welcome. Gifty, over to you.
Thank you so much, Dikshita. Once again, I'll say thank you so much, Stacey. Stacey mentioned three profound things. She talked about how to lead in times of turbulence, in times of darkness, chaos, because they are definitely going to come. And as emerging female leaders, we need to know these things so that we are not taken by surprise in any day or on any day. She mentioned focusing on the things that are most important. She also mentioned that you should be very effective with communication in times of turbulence. And she also said, you have to build capacity. I hope that we all have taken our part from her presentation. Okay, thank you so much, Stacey. At any point, Stacey might leave us. I mean, like Dikshita said, considering the time zone, she might leave us at some point in our conversation. So just look at her very well. If she leaves, maybe you get to see her some other time again. Stacey, once again, thank you. All right, on to our next presentation. I just want to ask a question. What would you say if I told you that leadership was not a title or is not a title? All right, take a moment and assimilate that information. That's okay. But don't take my words for it. Robin Sharma once said that leadership is not a title, but it's a behavior. Therefore, live it. And this is not in any way to undermine the fact that men and women over the course of the years have historically led organizations to prominence, but rather to give us a more revealing perspective of what leadership truly is. And for all those who are falling for the narrative that equates leadership with contents on business cards, positions held in companies and the likes, I think it's just about the right time to bust your bubble, because we're going to have an in-depth conversation on the topic, leadership is not a title. It is a way of being. To help us with this presentation, we have Karen C, all the way from Hong Kong, I mean, representing Asia in all its fullest capacity. I'll read a brief of her profile, and then Karen will take over from here. Karen happens to be a legacy building expert who challenges her clients to think about every interaction having a positive and lasting impact. Karen is a public speaker on women in leadership, self-belief, and living your legacy. She is part of the creation content team for Hong Kong's TEDx. The word there is very revealing. And so we'll skip it. The TEDx events, I'm sure, in Hong Kong, and is considered one of the leaders of the Me Too movement in Hong Kong, having coordinated public events in collaboration with the University of Hong Kong. In 2015, Karen co-founded Embrace Worldwide, developing a proprietary leadership model based on a global leadership ideologies and scientifically proven principles of human behavior, positive psychology, and neuroscience. with 25 years experience in marketing communications, specializing in public relations, advertising, and media strategy, and with regional roles in both Europe and the Asia Pacific. She can truly claim to be a global executive, having overseen nearly 50 countries. She has lived in Sydney, London, New York, and is now based in Hong Kong. She would actually expound on the topic, leadership is not a title, but is a way of being. Ladies and gentlemen, Karen C. Karen, the virtual audience is all yours at this point. Take the virtual stage. You're welcome. We can hear you, Karen. I think you're muted at this point. So sorry.
I'm sorry. That's the most popular comment of 2020. You're on mute, by the way.
That's true. That's true.
Thank you for having me. It's quite a privilege. I feel honored to be part of this group of women and people tonight. Leadership is not a title, it's a way of being. What I would love for you all is to think about what this means throughout the presentation. I'll try and make it a little bit interactive as well as we go. But I sort of changed the presentation as I was thinking about preparing for everyone for today. So I will show you some slides, ask some questions as we go. Gifty is going to be manage this, and I'd like to see what we get to. Okay, so I'm going to share a screen now. Okay, so can everyone share that leadership is not a title, it's a way of being slide? Okay, so I'm just gonna have to clear up a couple of things here. Okay, so leadership is not a title, it's a way of being. It sort of picks up on what Stacey was saying before. It picks up on what Manisha was saying about showing value as we are for a leader. And actually it's not, as Gifty said, it's not what's on your credit card, on your business card. It's not your title of managing director. It's actually about who you want to be when you show up as that person every day. But as you can see, the title of today is actually the ROI of leaders. And I say this because actually, and I put who are female in brackets, because I want to change the vernacular a little bit around what we say as female leadership. So Sheryl Sandberg said some time ago now, I think it was a couple of years ago, but her Lean In book inspired me about 6 years ago. She said, in the future, there will be no female leaders, there will just be leaders. Except I've scribbled that out because all of us here today, there are no female leaders, just leaders. So I want to have all of you change the vernacular a little bit. Think about yourself as a leader now. I'm a leader, Stacey's a leader, we're all leaders in here. So why should we be in the future? We are now. So I'm sorry, we were talking about female leaders. I know we talked about that a lot today, but if we can start thinking about leaders and we're female. So let's change it a little bit around. Okay, so when I share the return on investment of leaders for women, there's a couple of things or a few things we'll go through today. The gender gap, equality to equity and what the difference is there. The barriers to female success, there's education, government, organizations, society, and then the biggest one is ourselves, and I'll go through that in a moment. And then also we'll start to answer what is the number one barrier to women's success. Okay. So to start us thinking a little bit about why we need to step up, I wanted to show you a report that's come out from the World Economic Forum, and it was released in March. It's a screen grab, so it may not be as clear as I would like. So as Stacey said before, is click on the speaker on the top right, I think it is, speaker gallery, so you can see it a little bit more. Manisha talked about education being a basic right. So actually you can see this line here, which is education. So within 15 years, we will get to parity for education. So let's keep our fingers crossed for that and hope that Afghanistan doesn't get in the way of results for next year. The middle blue bit is where you and I sit. It's called economic participation and opportunity. This is 268 years to the time that we will get to gender parity. And I'll go back to that in a moment. The bottom line here is political empowerment. And this is 146 years away for us. When we average all of that out together, this is the dotted line. So the global gender gap index is 137 years right now. And actually it was only 100 years 2 years ago. We're going backwards. I actually think #MeToo, and it's a totally different topic, has actually made the gap worse for us, and we can talk about that another time. And this data doesn't actually include the pandemic. So what can we do to make a difference, given we're about 270 years away? I pulled this picture up because I think it's pretty funny, actually. I cannot believe I still have to protest this. And there's a woman here that's sort of saying, I'm sure she's been up for many times before. But again, I really want to reinforce that it's 268 years to close the economic participation and opportunity index. This is you. However, it's not me right now, it's you or yours or you right now. It's your grandchildren's grandchildren, which may or not see the gap closed. So are we really then talking about equality? Because the data means we are so far off. So in a business sense, and given that we're all here right now, I would sort of challenge that a little bit and say, really, it's not equality, it's quality. So I dropped the E. I come from branding, so I've played around with this for a while, but rather than it being quality, what do I mean by quality? Well, what I mean here is that the best person gets the job. And that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be 50% one gender or the other. It means that we should support that person to be the best that they can be. So we are all having the opportunity to get that job. As an example of this, I do think of the pandemic, and actually the theory behind why perhaps last year it was the leaders that were female that seemed to be doing better during the pandemic. That's Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, Angela Merkel, the president or the prime minister of Iceland. They thought it was down to the fact that they were women, which is partly the reason why they were more successful during the pandemic. I've read a lot about this and I want to challenge it a little bit. It's actually not because they were women that they were successful. It was actually because the best person had the job. In these countries, it's all about, they've had female prime ministers before, or prime ministers that are female before. They've had, it meant then that there was a pool of 100% of people that had the opportunity to have the job to lead the country, which is perhaps their success, not because they're women and not because they were nurturing. It is just because the best person got the job. An example of the person not getting the best person the job was Trump. At the time, Hillary, and this was only 5 years ago, the best person did not rise to the top here as well. So I reinforced this a little bit about following the point about quality. And then I just wanted to build on this a little bit to comment on equality and equity. I'm not sure if everyone understands the difference here, and you can see the women in quality means that if everyone's given exactly the same thing, despite our ethnic minorities or how diverse our populations are, then we all lift up, but at different levels because we're starting from a different place. When we look at equity, we support the different audiences in a way that means that they may get more support. So the woman on the far right is getting 3 chairs to look over the fence, and the taller person only has 1 chair. This is actually the reason why we have programs like this. It's why we have mentors. It's why we need to have women's groups, women in business. So I just want to remind all of us is that sometimes, I call it women supporting women, actually, the hashtag women supporting women. We need to together support each other to be better. And I think Manisha mentioned that a little bit about the competition within senior leaders that are women. But I really want to say here that we've gathered together today, and it's a bit of a gift that we can take this on and as I said, hashtag women supporting women. But this is actually not just about women. I'd like to think that this is all about minority groups. So just please keep that in mind, that we're all here today, but there's so many other groups that we could be supporting as well. Okay, so barriers to female leadership. I'm just going to move through this quickly because I believe there are 5 elements of barriers to leadership, and I'm going to briefly touch on some of them. I call it the egos: education, government, organizations, society, and self-belief. They're formed up as cogs because it's sort of, if not all of them move at the same time, they get stuck, then one's not going to help the other. So they're like cogs in a machine or cogs in a watch. So why I think these are getting in the way of us. There's 4 institutional barriers and then 5 with self-belief. Manisha talked about this. This is about education. Increasing women and girls' education contributes to higher economic growth. Increased education for women accounts to 50% of economic growth. And a study has said that for every year that a woman gets education, the mortality rate drops for children at 9.5%. So again, Manisha reinforced to us that education is a basic right. And I believe, and yes, this is one of the main reasons why women don't have success in the workforce, because we're not educated enough. Just to touch on government for a while, women make up 49% of the population, but there's only 22 women that serve in the government at the moment. There are 119 countries that have never had a woman in leadership. And if we had female country leaders, then we'd be able to change the mindset. I took out a quote actually that was from Robin Williams, and there's a couple of other people that said that there's never been a female dictator before. And so Robin Williams actually said that if there were more women in, so Robin Williams, a famous actor that passed away a couple of years ago, he actually said, if there were more women in power, we would have, there'd be 28 days free with only 7 days of hard negotiations. So I think that's true in a sense that women hold the peace in the world, and we should have more women in leadership for that. I wanted to also use a quote that comes from the president, Banda, the former president of Malawi, that sort of reinforces the reasons why women are not getting into leadership positions through the government. And this sort of is an example of why this is happening. In Malawi, there is a saying that a bull goes to the farm to pull cart. A cow is kept at home for milk. So people in opposition said, how lucky are we to end up with a cow pulling our cart? It was vicious and cruel and could only be used because the person at the end of the insult is a woman. So again, I want to encourage us to think about the barriers that we're breaking and why we need to break them as well. Now I get to the O, which is for organizations. And this is really where I think we can all make a difference and where it's really important for us. An organization with 30% women on boards means that there's a 15% greater profitability for that business. We use 30% women on boards because we're talking here today at the Women in Finance Forum. However, 30% diversity in any form will lead to greater 15% profitability. 30% is like a magic number, which means then that we are able to shift the dial a little bit in terms of profitability. If you have more women in leadership at the board level or even senior management level, there's a higher return on equity. The company is valued more, and there's better average for growth. So you'll see a 14% increase with women on boards compared to 10% with no women on board. To put this all in perspective and for why we need more women is the Fortune 500, it's a magazine or a survey that comes out every year. Only 8% of women on that Fortune 500 list were women, which actually means 37 people. So again, I would encourage all of us to step up, and I'll put this in the end as well as to why. The other part to all of this is that society means that we are put in sort of like a little box or a little, boys are brought up to be overconfident. Boys are brought up to be strong. Boys are brought up to be, if they fall down, it's get up, keep running. Women or girls have been social conditioned to act differently. So I think there's a great big movement at the moment that we shouldn't be dressing up our little girls in Snow White outfits and sort of princess outfits, but we should be getting more women in STEM. We should be thinking about how women step up into the workforce more in a different way. You can see here it says men suffer lower portfolio returns from female leaders. The irony is this is because women are more risk averse, so they actually make more money. Who knew? And also we invest longer. So actually what's been really interesting at the moment is we're starting to see more women in finance, and the flip of that is actually women live longer. So we're starting to find that banks finally are looking to supporting women more to help build up their finances. The last S, and this is the big one. So if you've caught everything beforehand, really all I want you to remember is this. The number one barrier to women's success is confidence. So Stacey talked about value before, and I truly believe in this is because how do we show up? How do we show our value? How do we demonstrate self-belief? And I like to say to a lot of my clients is that, self-belief is believing in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, how can you expect others to? So the big reason I say this as well is because I've shared with you education, government, organizations, societies. We can't change that for maybe 270 years, but what we can do is we can step up for ourselves, right? Nothing's getting in the way of us stepping outside ourselves. So I make the statement, get out of your own way. The coaching question I ask is, what would happen if you've got out of your own way? So the point is, it starts with you. The question again, what would happen if you got out of your own way? So do you mind if I sort of open up the chat box so I can make it a little bit more interactive now, because let me go back. I'm going to stop here now. And I want to ask the question again. If you got out of your own way, what would happen? Have we got Gifty? Can I get you to help manage this? I can't see. Is anyone responded yet?
Let me quickly. Someone responded called Latasha Gorman. She said, I will see growth.
You will see growth.
Yes. Maybe I'm sure others. Someone said, I will start my own business and build my brand. I will start my own business and build my brand. That's Hanan. Monique says, I will be the best version of myself. expansion, and impact. Wow. I think there's a fourth one from Jennifer. She said, I will get to claim what I want either than wait on them to get handed to me. Pareno says, if I have my own way, I will invest. I will invest.
If you have your own way, or if you just have your way. I mean, this is partly where I was, it's not, you know, you have your own way.
Someone says, Nancy said, I will focus and develop myself.
Yeah. And there was a lot of data that I went through, and just to reinforce the fact that there are so many things getting in our way, but we can't wait for our organizations to tell us that we need to be leaders, because we are now. And it's for us, it's us that needs to step up. It's us that needs to take responsibility. So I go back to the first question that we posed, which was, leadership is not, or the statement, leadership is not a title, it's a way of being. So when I say this now, what do you think that means to you? Going out of my way will help me realize my passion. I'm a leader, but what I do and what I am. Yeah. Own your ability to be the force for change. Yeah. Okay. So given everything that you've heard today, what will you do differently from now?
What would you do differently from now? A lot of questions.
Sorry, I want to hear myself.
So I couldn't help myself. I know I spent a lot of time talking, which is why I wanted to ask everyone else now. You know, if we start from now, what is it? Pardon?
Can you see those responses, Karen? Can you see those responses?
Letitia's is listen to great leaders, help me grow and get myself out of the way. So that's right now, Letitia. Oh, awesome. Yes.
Great.
All right. Well, I hope that what I provided you was a backdrop to for what reason we are in this place. I hope that we will now change the vernacular. So we are leaders who just happen to be female. And I hope that there's something that you learned today that will get you moving forward. And I hope to see you successfully. Well, my tagline for my business is success every day. So I wish you success.
That's every day. Oh. Right.
Gifty, there are a few comments here, and I would like you to read it to our audience, because it might help, you know, one or the other in getting the key points from Karen's presentation.
Dikshita, can you take the questions?
All right. No, it's not questions. They are just comments.
Comments. Okay. Can you take them?
They are nice comments. Okay. Just read them.
Let's have them. Okay.
So Karen asks, what would you do for yourself now that you've heard her and her presentation? What are your takes? And then I'll just go through some of the comments here. So Monique says, I'll become a go-getter. As much as my mind can imagine, as far as my mind can imagine. Ooh. Monique.
Yeah. I that one. That's amazing.
Yeah. I love the way that people are interacting, because the interaction is great. Keep them coming. But I like what they're taking from the conversation, Karen. It's good. It's powerful, and this is what we are aiming to achieve today. Sylvia says, going out of my way will help me realize my passion to help build others. Building leadership.
Oh, yeah.
Imogen said,
hashtag that I mentioned, that hashtag women supporting women.
true. Imogen says, own your ability to be the force for change.
Okay.
Abigail says, I will build better and stronger networks. Janet says, need to grow personally in all aspects and grab all the opportunities along the way. Of course, personal growth is at the core. I will try to be more fearless in driving change and progress. Listen to you, great leaders, help me grow and get out of my way.
Oh, that's lovely. I can't see any of this, so thank you for reading them out.
It's in the chat. Yeah, it's the chat box.
It's in the chat box.
Exactly. Getting out of the way and making things happen. It's because you hold up more responsibilities. Ekta says, believe more in myself and stand up for myself when the need arises. Monique says, believe in myself that the right time is now. I define what right time is.
Oh,
I'm building some years of experience in order to get an MBA. My goal is to be a great leader. So education is in this part is important as well. Education is very important. Yes. Keep going, guys. We absolutely love the comments. Yeah.
Right. I've coached a lot of MBA students, and what I do say to them is that an MBA will help you to run a business and help you be better at running a business. However, you know, it's leadership, stepping up, and leadership is the only way that you will succeed.
Thank you, Karen. Okay, we're getting some motivation from our audience. They are probably saying what they are going to do from now onwards. So Sylvia says, starting from now, I will go back to today's notes. So far, as I have learned so much, build myself and help build others. Thank you, Sylvia. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, Karen, thank you very much. Thank you, the audience, as well, for the comments. I'd like to just say that we have a question here that was addressed to Stacy. So I'd like to take that. Stacy, let's have this question for you. It came from Sylvia. Sylvia asked, looking at the 4 areas of communication that you explained earlier, can we get some of our answers from our mission and vision statements and vice versa?
Yeah, look, the short answer is yes, absolutely. Often your vision and mission will inform some of those elements, particularly around the purpose piece of why are we doing this? And in fact, if you want to take it a level further, I have used that specific model to help organisations actually craft their vision. So it's very, very integrated with those concepts. So absolutely, I would say if you have those things articulated, then really use that in your messaging, because again, you achieve that consistency that people need, and that helps to keep things really clear for people.
Perfect. Thank you, Stacey.
My pleasure. I might disappear soon, I think.
That's all right. It was a pleasure to have you on our platform. Thank you so much for the insights and everything. One gentle reminder to the audience as well. Our panelists today, they are all leadership experts, and they are reachable via LinkedIn. So you can always reach out to them, send them requests, and check them there on LinkedIn. Right. So Gifty, let's continue.
Yep. Lakshita, thank you. Thank you so much, Karen. That was great. And Stacey, you mentioned you'll be leaving or disappearing soon. We will miss you. And thank you so much for being with us. I would once again reiterate that if you are just joining, you have just joined the Women in Finance and Investment Leadership Summit, organized by the Women in Finance and Investment Network. And we've had our first conversation and our second one. We had Stacey Ashley take us through what it means to lead through turbulence and chaos. And then we just finished a very interactive and conversational presentation with Karen C on leadership is not a title, but it is a way of being. What an interactive session this has been. Thank you so much, Stacey. Thank you so much, Karen. Great. Now, I'm just going to take us to the next presentation. And I just mentioned the WIFIN, which is the Women in Finance and Investment Network. And I represent this network. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm the country representative of WIFIN in Ghana. And I represent a network that is so big on women accelerating their career, women finding their ways into decision-making rooms. But then the truth is, while we keep shouting and fighting to bring a substantial representation of women to the forefront of economic, corporate, and social scenes, we must be able to fight the tendency of getting carried away by such noble pursuits. We must properly assess and evaluate the core reasons for our pursuits and ensure that these reasons do not stem from mere elements of fairness, but on a more concrete grounds of merit and competence. And this brings me to our third presentation. Our next presentation focuses on the new set of skills required in developing careers in future female leaders. And we believe that as we keep shouting, as we keep fighting for this level and this acceleration, we believe that it is important to equip the emerging leaders, emerging female leaders with the right tools and the necessary skills they would need to become better every single day. To lead us through this conversation, we have Tarja Wickland from Finland. Tarja is an experienced family specialist with a demonstrated history of working in the government administration industry. She's skilled in early childhood education, youth work, English, management, and healthcare. She is a strong social services professional with a master's degree focused in public administration and social professions from the University of Basa. Tarja is also a psychotherapist with a Bachelor of Social Sciences. She is currently studying to become CCT teacher, which is the Compassion Cultivation Training teacher, and also in applied compassion training. Tarja runs her own company, along with other works such as well-being services, compassion training, emotional intelligence training, and mentoring. Ladies and gentlemen, I hand over Tarja as our next speaker to you. Tarja, you're welcome. Thank you for being here with us.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. And thank you for the former presentation. I really enjoyed them. What I would like to talk about is that how leadership in long term has been defined with actual male qualities like power, action-oriented, and compassion, and those emotional skills has been considered as weak or, just being nice at the workplace. And first thing maybe I would like to hear is that when have you experienced compassion at your workplace? Please type in the chat, and have you ever thought it to be weak? So just type an example, like for example, I was at the workplace and something happened and somebody showed me some compassion, kindness, loyalty. Because most of the things what people think about is, I think more and more we are focusing in leadership, we are focusing in terms of how do we handle ourselves? How do we handle ourselves and others in terms of emotional skills? Yes, there are coming some, like compassion is now all around due to pandemic, yes. Yes, I have customers that show me kindness when tipping and giving me gifts. Yes. Have you ever considered this to be weak? People who show compassion, do you think they're weak? No. Yes. And we all, I was making my master's thesis about compassionate and servant leadership. And all those people I interviewed could tell 10 examples when they've been treated with compassion, kindness, respect. And none of them thought ever it's a sign of weakness. But when we think of the leadership qualities, most of the former leadership studies have been focusing on strategic thinking, finance, really those hard, goal-oriented skills. But compassion can be considered as one of the strategic assets, in the leadership area. I felt it at work. My teammates showed immense kindness. Yes, make sure I got home okay, and checked on me after. Yes, made me feel like part of the team. This is what science says about compassion. It can be considered as a strategic concern. And science shows us that increased psychological safety enables learning, adaptability, innovation. Everyone who has ever experienced, I have been work when I felt unleft. The managing director let one of my colleagues to drive me home in working hours. Yes. And when you consider that kind of events at your workplace, you remember them. They go to your emotional memory. They go to your deep in your bones. You remember when you're being treated kindly, when you're being treated with compassion. And compassion is against injustice. And when those former presentations were, talking about communication, the essential for the communication is being able to tune in to the other person's feelings, to the emotions. And what Karen was mentioning about equity, I think it has a lot to do with compassion. Seeing that not we are all, we are all humans, we all suffer, we are all interconnected, but also the ability to, realize she needs more support in this, and she, needs more lifting in this. Compassion takes empathy, yes. What is the difference between compassion? Yes. Empathy is the ability to kind of understand each other's feelings and also being able to tune in. So feel the emotion for others. But compassion has action-oriented approach. It is the intention to alleviate the suffering of others. And how that goes to the workplace. That has been, a really big issue when reaching out with compassion. Many people think it's something that you just lay at the workplace and listen to the worries of others. No, it is the intention to alleviate the suffering. And that can take many forms. That can take the form of communicating, being present for each other, actively listening from that non-judgmental attitude. Itself, it is an act of compassion. That can take a form in a strategic thinking. It can become a core value. When we relate to the customers, how do we do that? How do we know what the customers need if you don't have compassion? If you don't know, okay, this is the need, this product or this service or whatever I do is filling. Without compassion, it's impossible. It has many scientific proofs that, increase ability to respond to human pain. It gives you greater service and care for the customers. You can't be whatever you do, you can't relate to others without being empathetically attuned and without being compassionate. If you are at workplace and you go there with your own pain triggers, like for example, we go to workplace back to the office after the pandemic. We go there, we don't know anymore how to relate with others. It might be difficult. We have had our challenges, maybe some terrible, tragical losses. And we go to workplace and without compassion, can we continue from the same place? Being attuned to others, seeing that we are all interconnected is the key. And it's not a soft skill, Many people think there she comes again with her compassion hat and tells us, oh, just, go do the work and listen to the worries of others. No, it can be also very action-oriented because it is to alleviate the suffering. So when I was making, for example, my master's interview, and I had two women who were telling about their experiences about compassion. They were working in similar professions in different organizations. And the other one went to the leader and said, okay, a family member got sick. And the leader said to her, okay, take a day off. And the other one went and told the same story. Not the same person, of course, but it's same type of story. And what she received as a feedback was, oh, okay, how can I help you? How can we arrange your work so you can take care of your family member, but still being in tune with the work? So what can we do for you? So which one do you think was the most, which one stayed at the workplace? The one who were told, okay, you can take a day off and then you go back. Or the one who said, okay, we try to arrange your work in the means of, so you can take care of your family, but you also stay attuned as long as, we can do it. And she stayed away 3 months from the work. Not completely away, she was attuned what was happening, but she had a contact. So the first one who got the 1 day off, it took her 2 months and then she signed herself off. And if we think of the cost, how much it costs to have a new person coming into the organization, to train, it's a huge amount. And the other person, she was 3 months away, not completely away, but she did what she could, and then she returned. She stayed as a loyal employee for 4 years. Yes, the second one was yes. Because when we think, we all suffer in some way, and especially now in pandemics, we have had different experiences of suffering. We have been isolated, we have missed the connection. And now we go back maybe to workplaces. Now we try to get attuned again, how to interact with each other, how to communicate with each other. And this is it's the only way when you can really be focused and when you can take care of your employees, not meaning you have to do everything they ask you to do, because compassion starts with yourself. It starts with recognizing your own needs and tuning into others. So intention to help can be just an active listening. It can be of, okay, our goals in these organizations are like this, and how can we reach these goals? It's focusing on others. It's focusing on those people who really work there, using their talent, using their knowledge, their wisdom, encouraging them. And for me, it's the only way to lead in this, VUCA time, because it's uncertainty. We can't say what is happening next. And the pressure is coming from many sides. And if you think of an organization as a female, being attuned to your emotions and being attuned to emotions on the others in the organization, whatever you do, it is for benefit for others too, if you are able to recognize your own needs and help them to reach them. Also within the organization. The old power structure where the leader is the only one who knows this is not working anymore. We have very talented people. And the measurement that has been made in science, what is the biggest predictor of the success? Not only in one person, but also within the organization. It's the ability to connect with each other, to create an organization where people feel that they're part of the common mission, to be able to create psychological safety, knowing that if I have something in my personal life or at work, I can go to someone without being considered as weak or maybe not talented because I'm not doing, I don't know. Coming from that non-judgmental perspective and giving a bit space in that emotion is essential. And that is, available for all of us. We can all be proud and recognize that, we are human beings. We all suffer. We can relate with each other in this kind, compassionate way and still be effective. Those two are not opposites. When we are compassionate, we are action-oriented. We want to alleviate the suffering. So in terms of diversity, we don't accept the injustice. We don't accept the unfairness. We try to treat so that everybody gets involved, people like that. So when I have been talking about compassion in different various types of organizations, it can be at the level of values in organization, but it's not seen in the real action. And as a leader, it's very important that you present yourself as you wish the organization turns into. So you're an example of what you want to see. How many times have you paid attention to that cleaning woman? I remember one story from my own experience. I was talking with this leader from a huge organization, and he told me, oh, one day I walked by the cleaner lady, and I stopped by and I asked, what would you change in this organization if somebody asked you? And first the cleaner lady said, oh, I don't know. I don't have talent for this kind of questions. You have talent, said the leader. You know your own area. And then the cleaner said, well, I could just simply put those boxes close to each other. And the leader paused and said, well, that's a great idea. And next day they changed those, mailboxes close to each other, because by the time they have been very far from each other. And with that small act, and with that paying attention to the people in organization, their wisdom, their knowledge, the managers told me I saved, I think, half an hour every day, not having to walk around through the organization. We have big wisdom in the organization. We hire talented people. If we don't, then we don't probably succeed. We hire talented people and still we are afraid to use their talent, to use their wisdom. We all have wisdom. All those people in the organization are looking at the organization from the different perspective, and being able to gather all that information, being able to collect it and listen and really respect the answer, not having that, but, maybe, and is a powerful tool. Simply connect, try to listen, try to pay attention. And as leaders, how can we lead if we only think that we have the skills? No, everybody has skills, and all that wisdom we have in organization, there's huge potential that has not been used because of the hierarchical, position. We tend to listen to those who have more power. But all of that can be very beneficial, respecting everyone with the same dignity, with the same, we all have our power. Even a small improvement in the organization, involving everyone, asking, being curious. How would you do this? Please tell me, I'm curious. That is an act of compassion. That is an act of good management, good leadership. Because in strategic thinking, you have to live your values. And if you think as a leader, your core value is compassion, it means you want to include all. You want to know their opinion. It doesn't mean that you can always have, that kind of consensus. No, sometimes you have to make that decision because okay, I'm sorry, I can't do this because of the lack of the resources, whatever. But it means that we are able to listen. We are able to take everything into consideration, because most of the organizational changes that are made fail because not everybody feels involved. The command comes from up and it goes from down. And by the end of, nobody ever listened to those people who actually do the work. How would you change this? Be curious, be open. Listen to that wisdom of other people. Like we just heard the wisdom from those two amazing ladies. We all learn on the way. So I think as our power as a woman is to be connected. As what was Karen said, the connectiveness, empowering others, not seeing each other as competitioners. No, we are all here. We are all to create a better world, better workplaces. Because everybody knows if you don't feel well at workplace, how do you perform? Not very well. You don't innovate. You're not interested. You're not motivated. You do maybe what you have to do, but you don't do anything more. Your mind might be somewhere else. You just go and do the task you were mentioned. But the ability to really get that organizational wisdom comes with compassion for me. Because without that, we just keep on, and by the end of the time, we might end up into an organization that everyone has their own goals, instead of creating that common shared value, what the organization stands for. And you, as a leader, are a powerful example of that. And you have power in that, the connectedness with others. I tell you one example from my own past. I was working with homeless people. I was working in youth prison in a different country. And it was 2 o'clock in the night, and I was there as a guard, the only one. And that male knocked on the door and said, "Oh, yeah, come on, can we talk?" And I was thinking, oh my goodness, it's 2 o'clock, and should I be, connecting? Should I be? Okay, I said, okay, come on, let's chat. And no matter what he said to me, that wasn't the thing. But what I felt was the connection. All of a sudden at 2 o'clock in the night, in a completely different cultural setting, completely different place, in a closed prison, I felt, oh, just like me. He's just trying to struggle through his life. He might not have all the best ways of dealing with his problems, but he's a human being as me. And he's just trying to do what he can to be happy. It doesn't mean we accept the wrong deeds. It means we can connect and we can still be fierce, because as women, we also have this fierce power that can be seen as a mama bear. If somebody threatens our babies, we go. There has been proof that women can lift a car when they get that fierce power. If for example, their child is threatened. We have the power. We have the ability to stand against injustice, unfairness, whatever it is. And we have the power to connect with each other. Coming from that non-judgmental, harsh point of view is not going to take you as a leader very far. What is going to take you is being able to relate with your own emotions, being able to connect with the other one, and still you have the power to make the decision. They are not like you can include it all at the same as a form of your leadership. You can have the power to make, even hard decisions when needed, but you have the power to connect when making that decision. So for me, it's essential. And I think many of us, if you consider what you have been, experiencing in your life at workplace, as a leader, as an employee, whatever, think of those moments when you really felt connected with someone. Did it leave you a trace? Did it leave something in your heart that you can still continue working on? And admitting your own mistakes, somebody said, yes, one of the mistakes leaders do is to leave empathy when taking decisions. Yes. It can be every action we do has an emotional response in our brain. So whatever we do, we always get response from our emotions. But maybe when we get that response, we have more talent to recognize, okay, this is my emotion. And this is the decision I have to make. So being compassionate to yourself, understanding this is my emotion and this is the decision I need to make. Those two can connect. And when you are able to connect those two and understand your own emotions, then you're more able to connect with others as well. Yes. And if you try to make decisions without understanding the emotions, without understanding what your decision means to those people who work in your organization, what kind of organization culture are you bringing in? Are you bringing in culture of caring? Are you bringing in culture of being evaluated? Or are you bringing culture of statistics, harsh decisions? So I would like you to all consider when you make decisions, what is the impact of my decision? How do I relate to others? How do I listen to the wisdom in my organization? What are the core elements? How do I want to lead? That kind of questions all lead us to improve the connectiveness and ourselves in relation to others. So that was my presentation. Thank you all for listening and thank you for the wonderful, and let's all, yes, support and encourage each other. I accord to Karen, who said that former presentation, and also the communication. I'm also available in LinkedIn, so I will set that in the chat box. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
so much.
Tarja.
Thank you, Tarja. Thank you, Tarja. Dikshita.
Well, compassion, a lot, and so many times things that we don't think of. We don't think that it's important to include in our decision making, in our behavior, in taking actions. Actually, compassion comes everywhere, all the way. So thank you, Tarja, for highlighting its importance, and of course, and to make the clear distinction, we've got a few comments here, Tarja. Wonder if you have your chat box open.
Yeah, but for some reason I can't see that, so.
Okay, so I'll just go through that. So since we're talking about compassion, a lot of our audience here, we have Latasha, who equates compassion to action. Mm-hmm. We have Nancy, who says compassion equals to empathy plus action. Mm-hmm. Dinesh says it's gratitude. We have the Great Lady. That's a cool name. She says, I must times call them individually on different days into my office, listen, encourage, and guide. True. We listen, we encourage, and we guide. We have Bernard saying, one of the mistakes leaders do is to leave empathy when taking decisions. Women all over the world must connect and join their efforts just to break the mindsets of inferiorities. If this is not done, data will always be the same. True.
Yes.
Janet says, what you're doing now is a form of compassion. Sharing your expertise, knowledge, and wisdom with us for free is a great contribution to us. Thank you very much, Janet, and our audience, to show appreciation to the work of our panelists, to their insights and everything. Thank you so much. Okay, they've sent hearts to you, Tarja. Right. A quick reminder to our audience once again. Thank you so much, Shiaka, if that's correct. Yes, a quick reminder to our audience. We will have a Q&A session at the end of our discussions on leadership. So please keep your questions ready. And in the case that you have questions specified to one panelist here, please just write the name next to your question, and we would be very happy to answer them in our Q&A session. Gifty, over to you.
Great, Dakshita. Thank you so much. I would say thank you so much. If it was an in-person, conference or summit, we would be clapping our hands and making a lot of noise. There will be an applause for Taja right this moment. I'm sure a lot of the people connected with what you were saying. And the truth is, leadership without compassion can be too rigid, and it would make it lose sight of why leadership was instituted in the first place. Thank you so much, Taja. We are so excited, and we've learned a lot. Thank you. Thank you. But I want to ask, we are going to our fourth presentation for the day. Very soon we are going to end the summit, which I really wish we wouldn't, but we have to. And the question is, in an increasingly fast-paced world that is characterized by unexpected changes on a daily basis, it has become almost common knowledge that the technical skills that help us secure our current positions may not necessarily guarantee our next level. And as females who aspire to be in the leadership roles in the not so far future, there's an emotional element we need to consider in order to successfully find a work-life rhythm, manage stress, coach teams, and induce collaboration. And this actually brings me to my fourth presentation. Our fourth presentation and our fourth speaker will show us the way on how to leverage emotional intelligence for a bigger leadership advantage. Amy McKay is our next speaker, and Amy McKay helps industry leaders find more time for fun. I love this. She helps industry leaders find more time for fun, for family, and themselves without costing productivity. She actually began her business after spending nearly a decade with chronic illnesses until finally finding healing through fitness. Okay, so this is a woman who has experienced the odds. She has gone through ill health, and she finally found healing through fitness, nutrition, and meditation. Through that experience, she rediscovered her passion for healing and helping. Amy had over 16 certifications in mind-body wellness and offers mindfulness-based coaching, training, and intuitive energy work. She enjoys the sun. I mean, her profile just baffles me. She enjoys the sun and loves spending time with her two daughters. Ladies, and the few gentlemen we have on the platform, I introduce to you Amy McKay, our next speaker. Amy, the virtual stage is yours.
Hello all, thank you so much, Gifty. I am very, very honored to be here. It's a blessing, and it's amazing that we are on, I don't know how many different continents, and I'm in Nebraska in the United States, so I'm blessed to get to participate with you guys and share a little bit on, basically emotional intelligence. I'm going to go ahead and share this. So you will see, hold on. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you, Amy.
You can see me and hear me because I have Gifty on here. So
very clear.
Very clear. Okay, good. Let's see if we can get this to move. I don't know why it won't shift. Okay. So it's down here. I want you guys, if you have a journal or something, to take some notes, because we're going to go through some things that might be very useful for you to take notes, and then of course to write questions. But I want you to make notes of things that are going on or things that you experience as we go along. So my intention is to inspire you to understand your emotions so that you can effectively lead and positively influence, and then to empower you to see the value in emotional intelligence and really honor, being a woman and your femininity. So if you would, I would invite you to just take a minute Maybe close your eyes or at least find a focal point and just take a couple mindful breaths. And then set your intentions for, being here. What would you like to experience? Perhaps what you'd like to learn, as well as what you'd like to feel. And then just see in this moment if you can tune in to what you're feeling, and if you can name the emotion that you're feeling. So I'm going to come back to that, but just take note of that. So now, in 2020, the World Economic Forum published that it would take 99.5 years to close the gender pay gap. Due to the pandemic, that is now at 135.6 years. So the pandemic has put us behind an entire generation. Now, if you think about that, how do you feel? And again, you can kind of take note of it and notice what you're feeling, if that brings about something. And I would like to walk you through, it's called a mindful feelings, we call it that, but this comes from a high school program that I have, but I use it in adults and I use it in corporations as well. So what I'm going to ask is we're going to go through, I'm not going to name all of them, but we're going to go through and I'm going to ask you to tune in to what's going on in your body and your thoughts. Sometimes people have sensations, they have different experiences, and there's not a right or wrong. Sometimes people see visions, sometimes they have words for different emotions. So if you don't, it's fine. Sometimes people have a difficult time, depending on where they're at. If they're distracted, it's harder to, but I want you to begin to understand what emotional intelligence means. So close your eyes or find a focal point so there's not as many distractions. And then I'm going to list some emotions and just be open to possibilities. And if you can, tune into your body and your mind and kind of let everything else go. Happy. Worried. Eager. Jealous. Peaceful. Curious. Strong. Loving. A lot of times what happens is people will see a certain color or feel temperature. I've had, when I was teaching this in an organization, I had one gentleman say, "Why does my arm feel like it's on fire?" Emotions resonate in your body, and that's why it's important to understand and how to actually use them effectively. So this is one of my favorite quotes. Between stimulus and response, there is space. In that space is the power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. And this quote comes from Viktor Frankl. He was an Austrian-born Holocaust survivor. He wrote some really, really good books. But what emotional intelligence teaches you is the ability to consciously choose instead of emotionally react. So if you are angry or upset or depressed or sad or something like that, you have this ability to pause and make a more conscious decision. It's really helpful, like before you send that text or email. That's a lot of times people make some less than ideal decision. So I want you to feel empowered. And I'll go back and we'll talk a little bit more about this emotional intelligence and empathy and things, but energetically, it's a quantum physics thing, really. Women actually have 16 times the energy that a man has when they're in a room together. So when you are standing in a room next to a man, you are far more powerful. Your aura, your vibrational frequency is 16 times that of a man. So your ability to lead and your ability to have presence is already there. You just have to own it. And there's a phrase, I don't know about in other countries, but that when mama ain't happy, ain't nobody happy. And this is why, is because you have this incredible power in your household and your job and the grocery store for that matter. So part of the reason we don't own that is because you have a lot of stories in your head and beliefs. So this is a question I would encourage you to make note of is, what stories do you tell yourself, and what things do you still believe about when you were, what are women supposed to do? What jobs do women have? What's your role? Who told you these things? And do you still believe them? Because a lot of times that's what it is. We think we're acting, not acting with that, but you are a lot of times. So What stories do you tell yourself and what do you believe still? I want to quickly kind of define emotional intelligence. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with Daniel Goleman, but he's considered the godfather of emotional intelligence. He's wrote many books and done a lot of studies. And he says emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our emotions, and to recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of others. So if you know what you're feeling, so you're in a room and you know what you're feeling, and you know what's going on with other people, the decisions you make are going to be different. That's a very, very powerful state, because you can make a totally different conscious choice if you do that. If you're not emotionally reacting, you're understanding your emotions and consciously choosing. Self-awareness is one of the domains of emotional intelligence. And the definition of that is a neutral mode that maintains self-reflectiveness, even in the midst of turbulent emotions. And I put this because I think self-awareness and emotional intelligence are these huge, huge keys to all success. So the irony in this is really funny. John Kabat-Zinn is the godfather of mindfulness. He actually put, in the West here, he put mindfulness on the map back in the late 1970s with mindfulness-based stress reduction. But his definition is mindfulness means paying attention in a particular way, on purpose, in the present moment, and non-judgmentally. So self-awareness and mindfulness basically have the same definition. In a summary, this is just as simple as understanding what you're feeling and making a choice about it, being mindful about it, being present, and making a different choice, or making a conscious choice. So what that looks like in action is, we say practice the pause. So before you make a decision, before you send the text, before you send the email, before you go to speak, before you go into, whatever before you have to go talk to somebody, pause, breathe, take 2 minutes to pay attention to breathing, do something that, sense or tune into your body. And then there's a phrase we use called name it to tame it. And that's why I asked you to name what you're feeling. A lot of people don't know what they're feeling. They can't even, I've had people say success was a feeling. Well, success is not an emotion. Most people I meet are totally tuned out. Kids are way more in tune. So we also have some science on it. I don't know if you guys can see my hand, but if you take your hand, the neuroscience of it is your amygdala is here. It's just that part of your brain. It is called, it's your stress response. So it's, fight, flight, freeze is here. And then if you did this, this would be your cortex, and this is your prefrontal cortex. So we know for a fact that if you name what you're feeling, it begins to deactivate this, and then you activate your prefrontal cortex. So what you want is to get out of this. You don't want to be in fight, flight, or freeze, or afraid, or whatever. You want to use this part of your name. So it's name it to tame it. So you don't call it blow your lid. So that's what that does. So, and feel it. We say to invite it in for tea, make friends with what's going on, and what you resist persists. So you don't want to resist what you have going on, and then to make a conscious choice from that state instead of a reactive state. This is another really important phrase that I want you to remember, is you don't adjust to the energy of the room, you shift it. That's how powerful you are. That's emotional intelligence, is knowing what you're feeling, knowing what other people are feeling, and shifting it to be what you need it to be. And if you can lead from this, you will do miraculous things. And it's impossible not to. So it was really awesome that compassion and empathy came up, because empathy really is at the heart of emotional intelligence. And people, I am very, very, very convinced. I just had a conversation yesterday as well. There are empathetic leadership is a huge, huge thing right now. I've always felt it was important. However, this virus mess, the pandemic, has brought it to the forefront in organizations, because people want something different. We're all kind of tired of it, and we're ready to do something. And women do this very easily. And it's, empathy is at the heart of emotional intelligence. It's important to not look at it like it's a defect or a hindrance because you have feelings or because you understand other people's feelings. And basically, empathy is just that. It's the ability to feel another person's feelings. We actually have something called mirror neurons. So you were designed to be empathetic. I've had people tell me that it was, it's an awful thing to be empathetic. it just isn't ideal, but that's not, it's not science. You're designed, you're supposed to be empathetic. If you're not empathetic, then you're not in tune with what's really going on. And what we were taught was that empathy, empathy is what makes you feel compassionate. It's what moves you to be compassionate, and compassion is what drives you to act. When something bothers you, if you see a homeless person, and then you want to give them money, or you see something that's going on in the world, and you feel deeply about it, it moves you, like you want to do something. So empathy is not, and it's not a defect. It is something that you want to hone in on and use it instead. So this is my adorable 10-year-old, in which she says she's a strong, independent. She says she's a strong, independent woman. So you can be both strong and compassionate at the same time. In fact, I think it is absolutely, absolutely essential that you are. And here, this is important. It's kind of like bridging that gap, of being able to be empathetic and being able to be emotionally intelligent and being able to be kind and compassionate and thoughtful. If you could use your feelings to navigate home and work, then I think you'll have greater success. So this again has kind of become really common. Are you a leader or a manager? So we tend to think managers as being very, it's my way, I don't care, driven to have, a manager is going to want the end result and they don't care how you get it. I've had some clients, and women especially, I think sometimes will start to do that and think they have to play that role because of the men in an organization. And that's not true. You don't have to. The end result, how you get there, actually studies are showing that actually have higher success rates when people get their needs met at work. And that just because you're at work doesn't mean you don't have feelings and emotions or needs or the desire to be validated. So a leader is someone that's going to be able to show up and be present and make those conscious choices and be empathetic. So the 2 points of this, if you take away nothing else from this this particular slide, would be to cultivate compassion and curiosity. So acting on compassion, like it's just being kind, it's putting yourself in another person's shoes, it's making decisions for the whole, it's being connected, it's having a community. And curiosity means to ask a lot of questions, and in coaching we always ask like lots and lots of questions. So consciously choose from that space is really important. So again, pause and not, but just be curious about what's going on. And if you thought about this for a minute, what would your day look like if you were going to implement this now, changing or shifting to being more conscious and being more of a leader, being present, being empathetic? Does it look different to you? How does that look when you're talking to your significant other, to your kids, when you're having communications, in a meeting, even on a Zoom call? Would you make different choices about your well-being? Like, how do you do fitness, nutrition, or meditation, or any of those things that take care of you? Self-care in general, like, would it be different if you were paying attention to how you were really feeling? What different decisions might you make based off that? So these are kind of the, we use them in mindfulness. This is what we were taught to use, and you're not going to necessarily own them all. Some of these are going to come very naturally, and some of them aren't, and that's fine. You don't have to do them all. So one is sensitivity. That is, feeling the emotion, feeling the energy of the room. This is something that comes very naturally for me. Solidity, that means to be present and grounded. I use sensing my hands and my feet to be more present and grounded. Voice means being, consciously choosing your tone and the words that you use. Authenticity means to find your own style. So just be freaking real. Disclosure, vulnerability isn't all bad. So sharing as a leader, being present, like share a vulnerable experience you had. People relate to that. They want to know your story. They're empathetic, and then you'll get a gentler reaction from them. And curiosity is always about asking questions, and success, like revel in the smallest successes that you have. So those are 7 ways. And again, don't try to do them all, but take a couple, maybe make some notes and choose 1 or 2 to start implementing. And you do it when you're having a conversation at home or at work or whatever, or if you're teaching or coaching or whatever, working with your team or whatever, choose 1 or 2 of these to work with. So I want to make sure I get to the chat box. So I want to thank you guys again. And then these are the 2 things to remember: that you're more powerful than you've been led to believe, and do not adjust to the energy of the room, shift it. That is the most important. So I will give everybody, I have an online course, Mindfulness Matters. It has, I'll give everybody who emails me access to the first 2 weeks. It has an introduction to mindfulness and meditation as the first week, and emotional intelligence is the second week. And it has audios, videos, worksheets, all of this stuff that we talked about in a more expanded way. So if you email me, I'll give anybody access to those first couple of weeks, because I think it's so important that we really hone in on the empathetic piece and the emotional intelligence piece. It is the future of leadership. You need to be tuned into, and it teaches you your values, who you are, what matters for you, and then you act from that, and you use those other things, and you stand in your authenticity and in your knowing and in understanding what's going on with everybody else, and act from there, and you'll change the world. So, and everybody around you, but it's up to you to hold space. You are a woman, you have more power than you're owning, but so it's up to you. It's completely and totally up to you to be able to hold space and make those decisions. So, do you want me, can I see this chat box?
Let me unmute. Sure. There are some amazing comments, Amy, in the chat box. There is Bernard from Rwanda, who says women are great leaders. In Rwanda, we do have 60% of you guys, and we're doing great work in leadership. The spirit of compassion in leadership must not end in the dialogues. True. Actions is what we need. There's a comment from Anita saying women are committed, so whatever they do, they try their best to overcome all challenges. Very true. Emotional intelligence is also very important when taking decisions. In sense, be aware of your emotions and your team's emotions when setting a decisions. And I think this also leads to effective teamwork, building solid teams and getting things done. Yeah. And okay, we have another comment from Arsene, who is based in Rwanda. The Constitution states that at least 30% must be in leadership, that is decision making, because the capacity and leadership skills is at the highest level. And even women play a big role in the development of Rwanda. They take right decisions compared to men. When it comes to Rwanda, and we speak of Africa, the continent of Africa, I believe Rwanda is one such country that is doing amazing work on the continent. The way it has grown itself in the past 2 decades is amazing, and kudos to the leadership in Rwanda. Indeed, there's much to learn from the country. There's Ishita, who says that she did read a research paper in the past where she saw that women have greater emotional intelligence than men, but they hardly leverage on that to elevate their leadership. So, bringing the point of this discussion. Indeed. Thank you very much, Amy. I think we will take our next presentation. So Gifty, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much, Amy. I'm still I'm trying to, get how, I think I need more training on that. Thank you so much, Amy. That was great. And we'll quickly take the last one. For the past 2 hours, what we've been doing is we've been getting a lot of information that would equip emerging female leaders to become the best versions of themselves on a day-to-day basis. And whilst we keep talking about these things, the tools needed, the skills needed, how to lead in times of turbulence, knowing that leadership is a behavior, one question still remains. And the question is, how do we deal with the challenge of evaluating or displaying a measurable value that shows the progress of our diversity and inclusive initiatives in our workplaces? What is the measurable? How do we measure how far we have come after all the things that we are doing, after equipping ourselves? As time goes on, what would be the indicators? What are the things that will help us know that we moved from point Z or from point A to point D? And to help us with that, we have a female leader hailing all the way from Colombo, Sri Lanka, who is Senela. Her surname, I'm just trying to avoid it, but she's called Senela Jayasuriya. Oh my goodness, I love your name, Senela. And she's going to take us through the 6 I's for measuring innovation to achieve diversity and inclusion in our workplaces. I'll read a bit of her profile and then she takes us through it. So Senela is an award-winning international keynote and certified transformational coach, a renowned corporate and business trainer, a dynamic motivator specialized in growth acceleration and goal setting. She has worked with over 15,000, that's so impressive, professionals and organizational teams to date. Senela has trained teams from the World Bank, United Nations and Fortune 500 companies, multinationals as well as SMEs. So she's everywhere. She goes to the big, she comes to the small. And Senela has been interviewed and featured on panels and talk shows, magazines, podcasts in the UK, in the US, Norway, Germany, Switzerland, Singapore, Africa, India, Sri Lanka, you name them, a lot of them. She is a contributor and featured with a dedicated chapter after her in the Amazon book, Women Going Global. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Senela Jayasuriya. Senela, welcome.
Thank you so much, Gifty. So lovely to meet all of you. Thank you, Dikshita. What an absolute honor and privilege to be here on your wonderful platform. Thanks, everybody. And to the wonderful speakers who spoke before me. I have a quick slide deck here that I have prepared for today's session. You know, they say they save the best for last, but goodness, after all the amazing ladies and their power-packed presentations, I don't know about that. But so let's dive in. Just to confirm, can everybody see my screen? It's visible?
Yes, it's very clear. Yeah.
All right, perfect. All right, yeah. Thank you. So I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of a sense to who I am, what I'm about, and that's very important to me because you know, more than anything else, it's so important that you connect with me as a person and just to understand why I am here doing the work I do globally across 6 continents. My heart goes out for purpose-driven, hardworking forums exactly like this. You know, just yesterday I was in a podcast I was talking about today how excited I am that we're talking to a group of future leaders, emerging leaders, of women and men who are looking to make a legacy and build businesses and build corporates, and that excites me immensely. So far, we spoke about beautiful things. I saw a very interesting pattern across the board from the other speakers today as well. I loved how Stacey first started with the whole, I'm just taking little bits and bobs from here. Stacey spoke about the why. The importance of, you know, asking the question why and relating that to purpose. And it could be purpose in your life. It could be purpose in your business. So you have micro purpose, macro purpose, different things, but the purpose is what drives people forward. And then I also love how Karen, she said so many things and she spoke about the state of being. It's not a title. And I also love how Tarja covered compassion, and of course, Amy, emotional intelligence. And one thing particularly stood out for me, and that was the whole conversation around being curious, curiosity. So what do we have here that I'm going to grasp and sort of package into innovation? Because my segment is all about educating you and sort of giving you a different flavor to critically view innovation in your life and business. So we're looking at bringing all these four narratives: the why, the conversation about the why, the conversation about the state of being, the conversation about compassion, the conversation about curiosity. When you package all these four things, what do you get? You get a beautiful thing we call innovation. Of course, innovation is so many other things as well, but I see a beautiful pattern. So I'm so grateful and happy that you have gone through that knowledge thus far and you've arrived here. So when I think about innovation, I see your life, leadership, because we covered so much about leadership. My background has also been in leadership. I'm on 7 different leadership teams globally. I'm on 3 different boards. I'm on nonprofit boards as well. Women Empowered Global is my own company. We have initiatives across 6 continents. Diverse Consultants is my innovation company. I'm also a mentor for Founders Institute. Today, I'm representing the innovation hat. I wear 3 different faculties, which I see a beautiful intersection. I'm all about leadership acceleration at that. That's what I do globally. I'm also into innovation culture as an agency, innovation culture as a small and medium business, innovation culture as a conglomerate. I'm all about innovation culture. And finally, I'm all about DEI. And I know Karen covered on the equity as well with a beautiful picture. I think diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm all about that. So those really are my 3 main faculties. And I see a beautiful relationship. You know why? At the center of it all, enormous purpose, and it's all about people. I was a former lead on developing brands for a Fortune 100 company. Looking at the downstream operation, I was also the country head for a tech company where I was the first female recruit. My managing director was in UK at the time, and then my group chairman was in Canberra, Australia, and here I am, the first female hire and also the country director in this company. And so immense learning curve for me. I have found throughout my life. I took a career transition, talking about career accelerations. My own career has been massive, like a snakes and ladder kind of a board. But throughout my life, the biggest pivots I've done have been those moments where I felt the breakthrough came by powerful questioning. And you know what that questioning process is? It's that questioning process of being innovative, innovating yourself. The biggest moments in my life where I felt like things were crashing, I started questioning and being curious, like Amy said. And guess what happened? I came out with a strong pivot, innovating myself, gaining that clarity and awareness, and learning the dynamics of getting a team to grow and drive things with me. So it's really, really beautiful and symbiotic that we're talking about innovation as it relates to leadership, innovation, and the spell. I'm going to give you a little bit of a spin on how it relates to culture in terms of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So I wanted to share that with you. And, just looking at this feed, I can't even believe that this happened, because had you known Sunala 20 years ago, I couldn't come and speak in front of you like this today. Literally, public speaking was one of my biggest fears. I remember taking a course in public speaking about 20 years ago, and massive introvert story, okay? I would go on stage and I freaked out so bad. I forgot where I was, who I was, my mother's name. Gosh, I forgot my own name. But there again, for me to pivot, I had to innovate myself. I had to unpack what I don't want, and I had to reinvent myself. Today, I'm going to introduce you a specific tool called the 6 Eyes, which I represent. I'm on the global specialist team. And it's a wonderful assessment tool, but also I want to get you up to speed so that in this audience today, as women in investment, as women in finance, I know you guys are still relatively in your early career stage. It's so crucial that you understand what innovation is so that you can go back to your companies, go back to your life and have this added knowledge. So moving along, I'm going to ask you, what is innovation? What is it really? I want you to think about this question. A lot of the times people think innovation is product. Innovation is to do with new product development, product augmentation, product. That's all they focus on. And that's rightfully what I was exposed to as well. But then subsequently, with evolution, with more education, knowledge, and experience and expertise, I understood everything has some concentration of innovation. You're used to a particular color in your wardrobe. Guess what happens? You meet a new man and he says, honey, shall we try a different color in your wardrobe? What do? You innovate, right? You adapt. You become more agile in your thinking. What do you call that? That's innovation. Or say, supposing you're married already, and then your husband says, goodness, darling, we've been going to this particular restaurant for years. Can we change? And you're ready for that change. You're ready to take that step. That's innovation as well. So in the context of workplaces, it's really interesting. I have 3 quick stats to give you. 82% of organizations run innovation like they would any other business as usual operation. When you think about innovation in a company situation, they think, ooh, innovation. These are the dudes and the dudettes that are all about tech. They know it's all about design thinking, lean systems. Innovation is this big, scary thing. It's not for me. So then what happens? Innovation ends up being this silo, vertical in an organization. And then innovation, the department of innovation or the function of innovation, the company ends up being so restricted. And the whole idea for innovation is growth, creativity, being organic, that fails. So it's interesting because you talk about innovation at the heart of innovation. It's about change. Like I just gave you some practical, everyday examples of your life. You're innovating unconsciously, knowingly, unknowingly. So coming back to this, when we talk about innovation, my proposition for you is that innovation, I want you to get it out of your head that it's this crazy technical skill. It's this crazy hard skill in a business. No. I want to tell you that innovation, I want you to look at it differently. It's a soft skill. It's a survival skill. Innovation is a life skill. And each of us, I'm going to take you through a few slides ahead. Innovation, each of us, right, embody different concentrations of innovation capability. And as an audience today, as a cumulative, if we take all our innovation attributes, because there are 6 different innovation hacks that I'm going to expose you to today as under the tool, right? There's a research-backed study done on this. Each of us has 6 distinct innovation capabilities. And the idea is that harnessing that, gauging that, identifying what innovation capability we want more of as a team and an individual. What do we want to unpack? And together you infuse this and you're going to produce something beautiful and great. So that's the whole narrative that I'm going to talk about today. Innovation from the perspective of people, innovation from the perspective of purpose, innovation from the perspective of being somebody on a learning journey, creating a culture where innovation is no longer a hard skill, where the innovation head in your bank or company is responsible. No, it's the democratizing idea of innovation where everybody, anytime, anywhere can innovate. So that's what I'm going to talk to you about today. All right, so let's look at innovation. When we say innovation, this is a quote that I'd like to offer. I love this quote. And look at this beautiful picture. Innovation. When you think about innovation, you think about what? In order to innovate, it's not about looking at things in an absolute linear way. It's about thinking out of the box, right? It was massive light bulb moments. Example, you take an HR process in your company right now. There's a manual process to apply for leave. If somebody wants to take a leave from HR, they would apply for a manual leave slip, sign on a document, give it to HR. HR manually puts a stamp on it, and it gets filed somewhere. Now, how can we innovate that process? What innovation does? Simple innovation, incremental innovation will do this. Automate that process where somebody now logs into an online portal, fills in their name, automated backend process, goes to HR automatically. HR just has to click a button and the leave application is filed in. No hard surface files. So that is what I'm saying. And when you think about innovation, I'm not going to go too heavy because you all are still starting in this journey. So I'm going to give you a very basic introduction. Is there are 3 different horizons. Is you innovate H1, H2, H3. We're not talking about radical innovation here. Today, let's first understand the beauty and the mindset behind innovation. Innovation not just as a skill, not just as an outcome, but innovation as a mindset. So let's get into that. So how does it relate to diversity and inclusion in an organization? A culture that is open and vibrant to innovation is a culture that uses innovation to evolve people so that people can feel that they can participate in change. People feel like their voice matters in change. People feel included in change. People feel that they understand the purpose of change. So let's go through this further. So I just want to tell you very quickly, when you talk about innovation, it's not just product. I'm just going to drop in a little bit of quick knowledge gems here because we need to know this. As women in investment and finance, you get so many different reasons why a company would innovate. I saw a question early on from a very young startup here. I'm a mentor for Founders Institute. I mentor startups around the world. One thing is, you have to innovate to be relevant. But before that, you need to also understand you're innovating for a specific purpose. And I know you're very young in this audience. So let me quickly tell you, innovation can happen at different stacks and levels. There's culture innovation. There's business model innovation. There's open innovation. We talk about leadership. There's leadership innovation, right? The leadership readiness for innovation. There's policy innovation. You're changing a policy or a process in your business. Guess what? What are you doing? You're innovating. Anything that's making enhancement, you're contributing to innovation. So you can be proud to know that as women in investment finance and as early startups, stage 1 startups, that you guys have a sense of innovation. So I'm just trying to take that knowledge and 10x it to the next level. So it's an interesting statistic. 70% of leaders say they have identified innovation is crucial, but there is a big gap. 50% say they're dissatisfied with the outcome. So the first questions I'm going to ask you is this, basically. This is something I asked C-level leaders. Recently, I did a conference in the room. I had a bunch of C-level heads, decision makers, managing directors of companies, heads of innovation coming to meet me. And I was talking to them. I gave them a pitch about innovation culture and specifically using 6 eyes to measure innovation. And one of the things I asked them this checklist of questions. One thing, what are your current challenges? So I want you to make a note and ask yourself today, hey, hang on, what are my challenges right now in my business, in my company, in my corporate setting, in my workplace? Is it to do with collaboration? Is it to do that we don't have very clear defined roles in how we're expected to perform? Is it the fact that your company has a very expensive looking boardroom with a company vision statement beautifully printed out in an expensive frame, but yet you still don't feel aligned with the company vision? And this is true for a lot of cases, even some big companies. They have a beautiful placard with a vision statement, but you take that down to the organization level, the employees, and they still can't resonate with what that is. So ask yourself, what are the current challenges in my company? Another one, what is the definition of success if I innovate well? What is my idea of innovation? I'm just challenging you with some questions that we have conversations when you talk about innovation. You go into that with this mind frame. How do we define innovation? It's so interesting. At that forum with these C-level innovation heads and decision makers, I asked them this: in your organization, how many of you understand and define innovation the same way? Do you all speak the same language when it comes to innovation? They said, no, I don't think we do. Innovation as a vertical defines it a certain way, and then it goes to manufacturing, it gets lost in translation. And then we covered purpose and strengths and gaps. So I just wanted to tell you the beautiful thing about this tool I'm going to talk about today, called the 6 Eyes of Innovation. It's created by Natalie Turner. I'm a certified global practitioner belonging to the expert team globally, and it's a statistically validated assessment tool where we're not talking about competency. We are talking about capacity, very different. Competency is one thing, but I'm talking about capacity, and that is a more powerful establishment. So moving along, looking at innovation, I'm going to take you through what this tool is all about. What's unique about this is, this looks at the human side of implementing innovation in your company and business, whatever scale of business. If you're a 6-member team, you can run this assessment. If you're a 600-member team organization, a bigger company, you can run it. If you're running into thousands in your bank or your business, you can still run this. So this is about harnessing innovation culture, keeping the purpose, unifying the whole idea about what innovation is all about, but unifying everybody's voice so that they feel they can participate in the innovation journey. Because this doesn't focus on product. This doesn't focus on product design. It focuses on the people that supports that process. This is about the people and the purpose. It's a really beautiful thing. So welcome to the tool itself. I'm going to quickly take you through. So what this tool suggests, the 6 Eyes of Innovation, with purpose at the center. It looks at 3 different dimensions very powerfully. You want to make a change in your company. You talk about leadership. Well and good. Let's talk about leadership readiness for innovation. Let's talk about culture. Culture readiness for innovation. Let's talk about the people that are actually facilitating the change. The change. What about the collaboration in the company? So this tool really assesses the leadership readiness and buy-in to innovation. And believe me, there is a disconnect. It appears to be a no-brainer, but sometimes leadership can be a resistance and a blocker and a hurdle. So be mindful about that. So leadership readiness, culture, and then collaboration. How are the teams gelling? Are you speaking to the person sitting next to you? If you're in marketing, you're in finance, right? There's this very funny thing. They say finance and marketing are usually at headlock because finance is all about controlling and monitoring the money. Marketing is all about spending it for expansion. So these are contrasting narratives in business. It's interesting. So coming back to this tool, what this suggests is each of you and me in this audience right here, right now, possess some degree of these skills. Personally, I took this assessment and I will explain these different distinct hats in innovation. It looks at 6 different skills in innovation. It will also assess the different mindsets of innovation. And I apparently score very high when it comes to being the visionaire, being identifier. I'm very good at identifying the opportunities for the company and the department and the project. So let's go into these 6 different innovation capabilities, and I'm going to interchange it with the word skills and mindsets. All right, I hope you're with me so far. I'm going a little quick because of the time. So we'll start with the first one. Now, innovation is not a linear process at all. It's not a linear cycle. If you actually work in innovation, it's not linear. It's not a straight line. It's very organic and it depends on the context of the situation, your requirement. But for the purpose of explaining innovation to you, I'm going to take you through a very beautiful linear journey. So let's look at a linear way of explaining this. The first capability, skill, and mindset of innovation is identify. This is a beautiful attribute of innovation. And remember, it's a democratized approach. You can innovate and you might even be possessing this innovation capability already. And that's a beautiful thing. So what this says is, an identifier is somebody in a company or in a team who has the natural capability to explore what's out there in the market. And they will bring to the table a strategic focus point and say, hey, you know what, boss? Or hey, you know what, Samantha? Or hey, you know what, Stacy? I think this is a key area that we should be focusing on right now to achieve our KPIs in finance, for our finance department. Let's look at this, implementing this particular thing for our business. So this is that person who is a visionary, who is able to go outside into the marketplace and look at key strategic focus points for the company, department, and project. This person would come in, drop a bombshell of an idea, not necessarily know how it might look like in the implementation stage because they're very creative, and then they might leave the room. But you need somebody like this in a team. Number two, now, once the ideas have been looked at, you need somebody who has the innovation capability called Ignite. What is Ignite all about? It's about taking this idea and taking it to a package level and coming out with multiple solutions, how to make this idea work. How do I package this idea and put it into the market? This is that kind of a person. So this person ignites, creates ideas to look at specific ways to take concept into product design and push it into the market. So it's interesting. So this is that stage, skill, and mindset of innovation. Then the third innovation capability, the strength, is investigate. Now, if you possess this strength in a diverse team or a company, what this person does is, and let me tell you, a lot of startups, this is a big blind spot in a company, especially if you're a startup. You're so eager to implement an idea. You're so passionate about product design and about getting it out and getting funding. You lose foresight to test, validate, do proof of concept to what this idea is all about. So investigators have this natural ability to say, hang on, guys, don't be quick to implement. Can we first test this with a bunch of customers? Let's do some market testing. So there are natural people like this, and I would assume, 100% assumption, that there is a tendency to have a lot of finance professionals who are very naturally who are naturally apt to critical thinking, critically evaluating to say, hang on, what is the risk assessment on this? I'm curious. Let's test this, get this verified. So that is that mindset of investigate. So it's a good thing if you're a startup to evaluate and measure whether you're very strong in this capability, or hire a team member who can give you that ability. Another strength is the invest innovation strength. Now, this is somebody who has no issue with shouldering the biggest risk in the business because it's directly linked to financing the project, financing the idea. Now, you take the idea from an identifier, you take it to an igniter in the team who is going to put it into a beautiful solution, package it if it's hair shampoo, or if it's coming out with a new bank account, a new finance product in the bank. They beautifully package it, and then the investigator will say, all right, guys, that's the target customer. That's the segment we're going to look at. Maybe it's Rwanda. Let's go test it in Rwanda, this particular financial tool that looks a certain way. And then it comes to invest. And invest is going to be like, you know what, guys? What about our competition? Let's do an apple-to-apple comparison here. Hang on, let's slow down again. Are we really critically evaluating whether this is a right fit for our purpose? Do we really need to launch this product? Are we just purely being passionate, or is this going to make business sense and dollars, right? So that is an invest mindset and innovation strength. And then you have the implementer. The implementer in your company shoulders the bulk, this I would say 60% of the innovation cycle, which is actual implementation, project management, being able to manage people with resources, that relationship. This is that project manager. So not everybody can do this. There are a lot of CEOs. It's debatable. Every CEO might be very strong having identified capabilities, but not necessarily implement. So they will get a project manager on that. So you can see how innovation capability works, right? It's about getting the right fit for the right job. And I love how Karen touched on that as well. She said, it's not about how I interpreted it. It's about getting the right fit for the right job. So it's about meritocracy. So this kind of governs in the same manner as well. Finally, improve is the final sixth strength in innovation capability. Now, improvers in a company, the natural tendency is you innovate an idea, it goes into a solution, you do market testing, then you come into an investment level, you go into a VC or internal funding, and then you implement the idea, and then you're like, done and dusted. Yay, let's get to the next product or next solution. No, an improver, right, is somebody who will say, guys and girls, listen up, team. What is the lesson learned here? What did we do wrong? Critically challenge the team. What did we do right? Do we need somebody like this in the team? How many of you think we do? Oh, absolutely. What if you don't have somebody like this in the team? Open innovation. Maybe you can hire, maybe you can outsource. So what's interesting about the Six Eyes tool is it focuses on the people engine that drives innovation, focusing on the innovation strengths, assessing that, because friends, ultimately a diverse and inclusive workforce, these are some dashboards that it will give you. You can go to the Six Eyes website, and then you can get more information there. So just to give you some dashboard analysis there, just different things. It will give you the importance score and your strengths as a team and as individuals. Basically, a diverse and inclusive workforce is where everyone feels like they have a chance to sit at the table, where everybody feels they're included, they have a voice, they feel a sense of belongingness. Why? Because they have been measured on innovation capability. There's enormous transparency across the board, and they all know they're working to a unified purpose. So there's inclusion there. They all feel they're a part of change. The minute employees feel they're a part of change, what happens? Resistance will come down. The more participation, resistance reduces. More participation, resistance reduces. So I would like to end with this. I'd like you to go over to my LinkedIn, it's Sunala, and I want to challenge you with a call to action. Do you know what I want to challenge you with? I want to challenge you by asking yourself today, as these future leaders or as these emerging leaders in the audience today, what is one step that you're going to take today to be more innovative tomorrow? Don't wait for your head of innovation. Don't wait for your managing director or leadership. What can you do to inculcate those values and think out the box, to push yourself to go for the stretch? Innovation is about stretching yourself. Remember, it's like the analogy of taking a rubber band. You have a rubber band. I don't have a rubber band on me now, but an elastic band is very flexible. You stretch it so much, you're innovating so much, and you let go. What happens? It will never come back to the original shape. It has expanded. Such is the beauty of innovation. So I'm challenging each of you today. Write to me, DM me on LinkedIn and tell me. I'm curious. I'm challenging you. What is one step you're going to do today to be more innovative tomorrow? I'm curious to know from you how you're going to think. What difference are you going to, how differently are you going to think? How differently are you going to show up? Right? More assertive, more confidently, more out of the box, more willingness to stretch, more emotional intelligence, more curiosity, right? Not conforming, but creating, right? You want succession in your company? There you go. That's what gets picked up, the vibration and visibility you're making, right? Finally, how you do you. Remember how I kept pivoting in my own life? My career? Wow, snakes and ladders. But I arrived through constantly checking in with myself and innovating myself, not settling, right? Understanding being aware and understanding what my end desired state is and what I need to do today to get there. So these are the same principles that govern innovation, even in an organization. And remember, I love how the other panelists covered empathy, compassion, those nuances in leadership is what strengthens innovation. You can't strengthen innovation and culture if the leadership is not supporting it. So if you are working in an organization where you want to say, hey, you know what Sunila just presented, this tool, 6 Eyes of Innovation, it's so cool. I'm so curious to know, the guy or the person sitting next to me, these lovely team members, I want to know their innovation capability. I want to know mine. I want to learn more about the 6 I's. Then you go tell your supervisor, you go tell them. And if they say, oh, I don't think that's for us, say, you know what? Would you like to try? Are you curious enough to try? Are you curious enough to discover? I'm ready. Can we try? And I want you to challenge status quo thinking, because if you don't do it, you're not a leader. Simply flat, you need to do it, because what did we say? Leadership is not a title, it is a state of being. So that's my challenge for you. Would love to hear from you on LinkedIn. With that, I yield the mic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sanela. Woo! That was
Let's ask Sanela to stop sharing. Yeah.
She just did. She just did.
Okay.
Right.
Wow. Sanela, thank you.
So much.
This was a lot. I mean, to just take in, but thank you so much. Actually, I would like our audience today, after listening to our panelists, listening to their insights, to their experience, to their thoughts, after every presentations that we've done, after every comments and discussions we've had, I would like to hear from you. What is the one step that you will take today to innovate your tomorrow? Please share with us in your chat box, in the chat box. We'd love to see what is your take. What do you take with you today as you go and as we close? And how will you innovate your tomorrow? Yeah, Gifty, as they write, we have a few questions. So let's address to our question. Okay, there's a question for you, Karen. Yeah, it came from Nancy. And Nancy asked, how do I build my confidence effectively?
Oh, wow, that's such a big, big question. I suppose the first question to ask yourself is, for what reason do you think you're not confident? If you sit back and think about the areas that you believe, where are your strengths and where are the gaps? And then it would be thinking within yourself as well. I'm sorry, it's quite late for me here, so it was a big question for me to answer. The first question would be, where is it that you feel like you need greater confidence? And I don't know who the person was that was asking that question.
It was Nancy.
Nancy? So Nancy, where is it that you believe you need the most confidence? Is it all round?
Let's take it all round. How do I build confidence?
Okay. I would see it as what we've been talking about before, which is investing in our personal development. So if it's confidence in public speaking, like Sanela said, it's taking that responsibility on to do that for yourself. It's, if it's about empathy and compassion, it's practicing. And I think the bottom line now, I've got my head into gear, it's practicing. It's, as we say with emotional intelligence, it's practicing that empathy. It's feeling, it's stepping into other person's shoes. It's being mindful and present all the time. Self-confidence is part of being self-aware and knowing, as I said in my speech, and as others said before me, which was showing the value that you have. So finding where you can really add value as well.
Okay. All right.
But if you really want it to be a bigger question, is finding your purpose. And I think all of us here as coaches, actually, I don't have to just answer the question. I've got other really expert people here. But really, part of the confidence is finding your purpose and knowing that what you do and what you are born to do, which is why I call myself a legacy expert. Think about the impact you want to leave with people and what you want to leave behind. And I don't mean leave behind as in the name on a building or a statue. It's what is the positive impact that I will have on you, and how do I want to leave this session, for instance, having a positive impact? Or so that is part of belief, when you start to believe in yourself and start believing in what you can contribute to the world. Nancy, that was a very, very long answer to quite a big question. So
all right.
It made some sense. Or if Amy or Taja wants to contribute to that, please, or Snella.
Yeah, and I would also like to ask Amy, Tarja, and Sanela if they could share with our audience their LinkedIn profile link. So in case they want to connect, they can reach you out easily. So just share with them on the in the chat box. Okay. All right. Let me see if we have questions. We have a question, and this one is addressed to everyone. It comes from Bernard. And he is asking, how do we make sure that we've innovated enough? Who's going to take the question? Who's going to go first? Anyone?
Kick it off?
Yeah, sure.
So your biggest enemy for growth is complacency. If you don't feel like you're uncomfortable, guess what? Chances are you're not innovating. The minute you feel discomfort, what happens? Oh no, my gosh, there's something else, right? That's when you start pivoting, because you get into serious questioning. So my counter question to you is, my friend, if you feel comfortable, then I'd be really worried, because self-doubt is the #1 killer of growth. And if you are confident about being complacent and you don't want change, then you need to go back into your drawing board.
Perfect.
Oh,
Yeah, that's true. Thank you, Sanela. Anyone else want to take?
Well, I'd say there's no learning without change. Or you can't change unless you step out of your comfort zone into a learning zone or into your courage zone. So that's the only place that you will innovate, when you move out of your comfort area. That's when you realize what you can really do. I'd say that's innovation.
Sure. And to all ladies out here who stayed with us from beginning to end, thank you. Thank you very much. We have some comments from our audience. We'll get through them. Amy and Tarja, any take on the question?
In regards to confidence, I agree, it's self-awareness. When you know who you are, how you're feeling, what you're thinking, your values, and you understand all of that, then you make a conscious choice. And when you make conscious choices, you feel good about everything. So
yeah,
it helps. I mean, it's everything. You make a better choice in regards to your health, in regards to your communication and relationships, in regards to your career, and
it's like
choices. Yeah.
Look at the whole thing overall. Tarja?
I would echo what Karen said about the getting out of that comfort zone and being able to hold that discomfort and still, understand the meaning of it, and being kind to yourself and kind of in that growth mindset, the curiosity we mentioned.
Yeah,
I think curiosity is so important. I think I have to continue to be curious, and again, that leads to innovation, that leads to empathy, that leads to being mindfulness. Curiosity is one of the best things that someone can have. That's growth.
Well, ladies, thank you. Big thank you to our panelist, to our moderator, Gifty. Thank you. Yes, today it's been long, but we've all been through, and we've got a lot of insights from our leadership coaches today. They've shared with us not only the things that they coach about, but also the experience. And I think we have a lot to take from experiences of people who advocates for leadership, because they know what they're talking about. So again, to the audience, okay. We have, I think this is the last question that we would take. Do we have any disadvantage of innovation? I think, Stanella, this question is addressed to you. So is there any disadvantage of innovation?
Absolutely. I think it goes back to the purpose, and that's what's so symbiotic with the 6I's innovation tool. Some companies, especially startups, be very mindful. Innovation can be costly depending on whether you're doing incremental innovation or exponential, or you're trying to do something really big and disrupt an industry. It's expensive depending on the scale. So the question is, go back to purpose. And that's what's beautiful about this tool. Why are we innovating? Don't be a startup that's innovating because you want funding. Don't be a startup that you're innovating because you just want a good name and significance and social media attention. Those are not reasons to be innovating. Innovate for the higher purpose. So I would recommend come with your team together and first define what is our higher purpose for this innovation. Come together for a purpose statement. Literally come into a conversation with your team and say, what is our purpose statement for innovation? Like you do a company vision and a mission, do a purpose statement. Start there. Otherwise, the biggest disadvantage is you're wasting financial resources, you're wasting time. Financial resources, you can go to a bank, try to leverage. But time, friends, you will never get back. And that's perhaps the most expensive resource that you should not be giving away. So that's what I would say, focus on purpose.
Well, thank you, Sanella. Thank you very much. I believe it's already 10 at Karen's place. Yeah.
10:15 p.m.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and to our panelists, thank you very much for being with us in this Women in Finance and Investment Leadership Summit. Gifty, would you like to run us through anything, any last word?
I would also say a big thank you to our panelists. I mean, they've actually offered us a clear and rational path to leadership. And I think they are worthy of our admiration. I want to say thank you so much to all of you. And to all the emerging female leaders out there, I think it's about time we own our spot on the leadership table and wear our crowns confidently, okay? In the spirit of full discovery, competence, and innovation. Thank you all. And then it's been great having this ride with you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you so much. So good night, good evening, and good morning to Amy.
Yeah, the sun is finally up, so yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye to you all.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you,
Bye,
Sanella. Bye.
Sanella, Tarja.
Thank you, Tarja.
Amy, okay. Amy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
All right.